Hello. So this is going to be the first episode of the Swarcast. The title impending. I don't know, but this is just going to be a way to get some long, in-depth interviews for some notable keepers that I feel like are missing some exposure and give them a chance to kind of sell their personalities a bit. So, episode one, we have Elliott Kobelansky here, probably the most influential blinder of the past 4 years. I'm sure we'll talk about that more.
Oh, I don't
But
know.
so say hello, Elliot. Already not off to a good start.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me, Noah.
Yeah, it should be some fun. So we'll just jump into the first question. Do you have any plans for an album coming soon? I know you keep releasing all the videos on your channel of just random
Oh,
practice sessions. How long do you think the trio will last? Will we get a live album? What are your thoughts on that?
okay. So the that's an interesting question. The videos I posted were from my final recital, and we tried recording that to not a great. It wasn't very successful just because of miking issues. And going into it, I wasn't really planning on having it like like a mic'd up and probably I don't know. I was worried about. I just wanted to be a nice show, so. I don't know. I'm not too worried about that. I hope an album will come eventually. The trio I have is two fantastic musicians that I met, I guess, in the past 2 years. This is the thing. They're both going to music school, and I'm not going to music school for university. So they're probably going to meet somebody else and cheat on me. But I'm hoping we can record something interesting. I started composing a bit. Um, and then, I don't know. There's some things are better than others, so hopefully I can record something soon. Another big question is studio time, but I won't get into it.
Oh yeah, I mean, technically we already have one album from you, the SoundCloud one with all the standards from a couple
Oh
years
my
ago.
God, I forgot about that. A solo piano.
So hopefully we should get another one like that, just some solo piano arrangements of like Chrono Trigger
You know what
music.
I'm doing? This is spoiler alert, but what I'm trying to do this summer is learn every song off of Songs in the Key of Life and
Mm,
arrange it somehow in a solo piano version. We'll see if I actually pull through with that. I'm not good with pulling through with big projects, but I've already learned most of the chords for everything, so it's just about arranging it. But I'm getting there. Maybe I'll do something like that on electric keyboard.
yeah. So my next question is, well, we'll get to cubing ones eventually, but the next one is,
Okay.
where did Joe Dart on the Fender bass come from? Your little iconic profile picture.
Oh, the profile. Okay. Earlier today, I was actually wearing the shirt of the profile picture, which I bought, I think, a couple months ago. So this is, I think it's a very important part of who I am, and it sounds very dramatic, but when I first really started getting into music, well, okay, I played classical music for a long time, but I never truly loved it. I mean, it was fun and everything, but I never had this like incredible passion for it, as I do right now with jazz and funk and just, that whole stream of music. So I started playing the bass in grade 8 or 9 of school. Not related to school, but just that was the time frame to play in my uncle's Lithuanian folk band.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that was just so I got a bass and I started learning some other stuff. I got a teacher, and that teacher is actually he's a guitarist of this crazy popular Quebecois like French Canadian band. That's side lore. Anyway, he showed me a bunch of stuff. He showed me who Stevie Wonder was. He showed me Anderson .Paak. He showed me trying to think of other things. But one of the most important things, so he basically introduced me to everything, um, this like really good music
Mm-hmm.
that's like funk
Yeah.
soul based, without necessarily being jazz. And that eventually got me transition into learning about jazz. And so I'm incredibly grateful for that moment. But one of the bands he introduced me to was Wolfpack, and that once I started listening to that, that was really the first band that I and music that I loved, and I felt it in my blood and I felt it in my body. So um, my profile picture is from maybe I'm committing a crime, a copyright crime, but It's the thumbnail from the super iconic, bass centered song Deantown by Wolfpack, and I've always just liked the color of the background and bass. But anyway, that band, I don't know, probably most people don't know it, but the way I see their music is all about taking life not too seriously and just kind of being goofy and embracing the goofiness, but still playing music to a very serious degree and playing stuff that is absolutely killer and fantastic music. So that is the approach I try to take to all of life in general is you got to take things extremely seriously, but at the same time, you don't want to take yourself too seriously. So it's fun to grind, it's fun to do all this stuff, but you can't do it at the expense of other people and at the expense of enjoying life. So, maybe I'm digging too deep into this, but Volkswagen as a whole really, I feel, represents my whole life philosophy, and that's why it became my profile picture. Just because I started using it out of nowhere, like, oh, this is a cool picture, but then I started thinking about it more and more, and I realized what the band means to me. Anyway, so that was also my transition into jazz and to all this great music that is such a big part of who I am today. Um,
Hmm.
and that's Joe Dart on the Fender bass. And so one of their catchphrases when they're playing live music or whatever, they'll always introduce Joe Dart as Joe Dart on the Fender bass. This is Volfek's bassist,
Yeah.
and so he's the one also in my profile picture. He's the one who played Dean Town. So that's where everything came together.
Yeah, I was gonna mention during that about how like the video for Dean Town is literally like them just sitting and like they're just like
Oh
in the
yeah,
front room, and that's
it's
kind of
goofy,
it's like inspiring
but
that
it's
you can
such
just
good music. Yeah,
you
yeah,
can just like do that in the comfort of your own
yeah.
home. Yeah.
So I suggest anybody who likes funk music, or even you don't like funk music, go check out one or two of their songs. Maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't, but it's worth a check.
Yeah, I gotta ask, are they your letter pair for VF? Because that's that's
They
what
are.
it is for me.
They are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's not many good VF letter pairs, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to that, we'll start with the big question. How did you start cubing, Elliot?
Oh my God. I hate the question because it's so cliche, but like it's such an important question. I started cubing very, very young, actually. Um, I don't know. I don't remember the exact details, but it was definitely it was the classic go. There was a cube lying around the house. Those were the beginning days of YouTube, I think. Around 13 years ago, 12 years ago, when I was 6 or 7, maybe, or 8.
Wow.
I think the first cube I completely solved was a 4x4, actually, before a 3x3, following
Wow.
myself and Ty's tutorial. So there's a picture. I don't know. Maybe some of you have seen it, but it's me like very young holding my 4x4. Uh, I'm sure it's findable somewhere if you search my name.
I would
But
look for it, but I'm not sure if you want me to like post it.
it's okay. Yeah, I don't mind. But anyway, that was I think I started getting into it with the whole YouTube thing, and I really got into cubing, and like buying stuff, but it was on and off. It was like sometimes I'd take like 2 years off and one and like 3 months on and back and forth and back and forth. So I wasn't improving that much, but at the same time it was a different time back then. I remember
Mhm.
magnetizing my old Volk.
Oh my
So
God.
even though I
Wow.
have a 2019 ID, I'm not necessarily like I still have some of these old school cuber things going on. Um, so yeah, so like I don't know, I just learned with that, and I knew about the competition scene, but I didn't really know how to find competitions to go to. And on top of that, in my specific area in Montreal, I don't think back in the day there was much support for competitions, and there really wasn't up until like post COVID, I would say we would if we were lucky, we'd get one a year. And traveling for competitions wasn't something I was completely ready to do. So I was only averaging 16 or 15 going into my first competition, which is something you could get in your first 6 months of cubing
Mhm.
easily these days. Um, but yeah, then I started going to comps, and the rest you could check my WC profile basically to see my progression. But
Yeah. My next question actually was, how did you find out about competitive cubing in the WCA? So,
I think it was me, myself, and Pi
oh my God.
video of like, oh, I went to this competition, and I remember him printing his registration receipt or something like that. It was US Nats maybe like 2012, which is funny because that is just I think that competition is like the size of a local comp these days.
Dude, there's like so
I
much
might be wrong. I might be wrong.
there's so much old cubing going on right now. We're talking about like magnetizing our old cubes
Oh
right
yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. So then you think just kind of like the Canadian cubing scene as a whole kind of grew following like 2022? Or is it just more like your
Mm,
area? You'd say?
my area for sure because we got our old delegate left, Julian Gabriel, and I know he was great, but obviously it's hard for him to do things because there wasn't much set up. But we have I gotta give a big shout out here to Alexandre Onde. Onde, that's Ondet. He's our local delegate here, the main one. We have a bunch of other ones, but he's really, really um, grown the cubing scene, specifically around Montreal and Quebec, and that really took place after COVID, so like 2022 ish. But I think before Ontario had a pretty good cubing scene, and Vancouver, and maybe some places in the middle of Canada, like where Jake Clausen cubed. But yeah, so I think it's just definitely cubing has been getting better in Canada for various reasons. I won't mention all of them, but with the work of people like John Esperaz, I think it's really getting better.
Yeah, dude.
Everything went uphill after NAC, I think,
Yeah.
2022.
Oh my god. We'll talk more about Knack later, but that's still my
Oh,
favorite.
okay.
Well, that's still my favorite comp. That was so
Really?
good.
Okay.
hmm Going on next, since you were talking about like cubing at such a young age and just sporadically throughout your life, I wanted to ask,
Mhm.
did cubing you think like play any role at school? Like, did you prioritize cubing over extracurriculars like sports or clubs?
Mm, so I think I would focus on this probably after I started competitively cubing. Competitive is kind of like it's such a dramatic word, but yeah. So it never interfered with my studying or whatever because I was always good at that. But I definitely prioritize cubing sometimes over. It's sad, and I don't want to make it seem sad, but like over social life. I'm not the most social
No,
person. I
no,
really need my time of recharge by myself.
100%.
But the summer where I really grinded, like I wasn't hanging out with people all the time naturally. So, you know, I had to, I don't want to say sacrifice certain things, but definitely I prioritize cubing over certain things sometimes, but I don't regret any of it. So I I'm big into I'm not a super extracurricular type person. I'm into when I get into a hobby, I really get into it, one thing, and I don't really like to branch off. I really like to learn one thing and go super in depth in it.
Yeah.
And maybe it's part of my success in my various hobbies, but right now, like I really focus hard on like piano and cubing and maybe some other sports stuff, but I'm not the type of person to do like a million things in school, so I think cubing was fun.
hmm And just like heads up for, I only know about American college system, but definitely in my experience, cubing was far more important than any other like clubs or whatever in getting into college.
Yeah, yeah.
Just because it's
Well,
like
it's just
it's outside school, and it shows like you're willing to work hard for stuff.
yeah. Oh wait, do you mean like getting into like applications?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, okay. Oh, for university applications, okay, that's different because the Canadian system is like very different than the US system.
yeah, yeah.
So if your grades are good, they'll let you in. And especially since I was kind of locked into going to McGill, which is the university right next to my house, not right next to it, but 30-minute walk away. And they post their admission averages online. I mean, I'm not going to get into politics here, but one thing US schools do
Oh
that
my
is kind of
God.
weird. It's like, oh, if they do this like game where it's like, oh, we take everybody, like your grades aren't the only thing that define you. It's like this game to see what you could do, but the Canadian schools really don't play around. So I was fine with that, and it wasn't that bad. So I didn't have to rely on accolades to get into university. Um, but in other parts of life, I'm sure for jobs and stuff, it'll help. It shows a different part of you, which is good because
hmm
if you're all like, oh, I did this in school and this in school and this in school, and I won these like million prizes. Okay, well, what else have you done? What makes you a well-rounded person? So cubing, in
hmm
many ways, shows that, and it shows. I always go back to the fact that like, oh, it's a toy, but it shows how you can practice, how you like socializing, all these different skills. So in that way, it's important.
Yeah, and I think it'll only get bigger with time. Is like, you know,
Oh, I hope so.
not only with cubing growing, but now we have job opportunities within cubing itself.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, oh yeah, I spent 3 years prior to applying for this job like working as a cube coach for like
yeah,
$50 a
yes,
session. So it's
yeah,
actual real world experience.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so moving on from that, at what point did you start approaching blind in general? So like when you first started cubing, where I know you didn't start with blind initially, but were you looking up to cubing heroes like Felix, or at what point did you start looking into people like Jake or whatever? Or was Jake at like any of your local competitions during
Okay,
2019, or what was that like?
so this is a good story. So obviously, when I first started cubing, I don't think I even knew blind existed, and it was in the days I think with like the Noah Arthur's days where I don't know, it was less speedy. It was speedy for its time, obviously, but I was looking up to big names like Felix Mdex, and this is a little side note here, but one of the most magical moments of my life was last year at Worlds meeting Felix. Um,
Oh my God,
and I think he knew who I was, and that was just like incredible because I
that's
remember as a kid, like I'd have dreams of meeting him and like just talking with him for a while, and I never thought it would actually happen. But just being able to do that and take a picture, like, oh my God, it was fantastic. Anyway, so those were the people I looked up to when I was younger. Also, and that also happened with somebody like Daniel Carnock, like Derby Cuber
oh
and
yeah.
DG Cubes. Like, I love their podcast. I love all the stuff they did, and also like I never thought I would meet them. Like these were like my superheroes in the days, and now I'm friends with Daniel. Well, I guess not DG, but I did have met DG and but Derby is like I don't know. I would consider him a good friend these days. I don't talk to him much, but we're well aware of each other. So anyway, meeting these guys was like these guys were a big part of my cubing childhood, and being able to meet them was very cool for me. So blind specifically, I think on my first comp, Antoine Canton was um, was doing blind, and I think he was getting like 28s or something, which was pretty good. And so I saw that, and I think I tried doing blind in the past, maybe like a year before that, but so I learned like the letter scheme and stuff, but I was never able to get a full solve down. So that comp, after seeing that, I went home. I think I started working towards it. I'm like, okay, this really looks cool.
Hmm.
So Antoine was my first inspiration. Um, I remember recently I told his dad that, and his dad was very happy. It was so then I started learning. For some reason, with SpeedCube reviews tutorial, and that's why I have the weird letter scheme that
Oh
I
yeah.
do. For those who know, um,
And is your color
and
scheme from that too?
yeah,
Red,
but
yellow.
the color scheme I don't regret.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Color scheme is cool. But now with these like team blind competitions, I'm regretting the letter scheme. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Um, so I think the next inspiration was definitely I think it was Jake Classen for sure, just because he was Canadian. But I mean, I know not everybody's super good at Canadian geography, but Jake lives in the west of Canada, and Canada's pretty big, so he doesn't travel to the east very often. So I only met him at NAC 2022 actually, but we exchanged a lot of words online. He actually, I think he coached me at one point.
Hmm.
So Jake was one big inspiration because he was this Canadian, and he got the first sub 20 mean. They're like, oh my God, this is so
Oh
cool,
my God.
and his content was great. He's into the same style as I am of this just like dry videos where he's just explaining things, and I love that. So I at one point I think maybe still now I used to remember like every single video what he would do in every single solve.
Uh huh.
Maybe not super deep, like I wouldn't remember like the letter pairs, but I remember the solutions of his first sub 20 mean pretty
Hmm.
well, and the tricks in those. And I think those videos taught me so much about all this floating stuff that I was able to further expand on. So for that reason, Jake was like such a cool inspiration. Jack was big just because of all his YouTube stuff,
Yeah.
but he had a lot of great tips. And so also then again, meeting him at North American Champs 2022 was also a big moment for me. So I think those were the two big guys. I was never into the whole Max Hilliard, Jeff Park, those guys' school. Although Graham, I really like Graham's videos, and he was also an inspiration. But I've never into that whole school of thought, just because they were a bit more closed off, and so I never really had the chance to look up to
Yeah,
them in the same way as these guys who were producing more content
they didn't
online.
post example solves either.
No, I think there's some weird like archives and traces of example solves for them.
Yeah,
I don't want to blame Jeff because Jeff is cool and I think he just didn't have time or something like that.
yeah, yeah. Me and Elliot are both big Jake fans.
Oh yeah,
I did
yeah.
the same thing of watching like
In my opinion,
every example solved from him.
he is um from what I'm able to see, I don't want to offend anybody, but I think he is the person that the most important person in quote unquote like modern blind thing.
Yeah,
Like and then previously like Noah Arthurs, and I don't even know my history well enough before that, but I'd say Noah Arthurs and Jake Klassen are like two very very important people
100%.
just because of their contribution, their theoretical contributions.
Yeah, and even like Jack Kai probably made it a lot more popular as well too.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you first started going to comps in 2019, I looked at your events. You were doing normal 2-3 Pura OH. Were you
Oh
already
yeah,
like
yeah.
caring about blind at that point, or
I think
did the
the
shift happen halfway through?
first comp I cared about blind was Canadian Championships 2019 in Niagara Falls, and that's when I got like a 130 something mean, which was pretty good for me. And I think at some point even John Esperaz he told me that like he remembers seeing that meme and he was like, oh yeah, this guy has potential. So
Wow.
that was the first comp where I started caring about blind, and after that, and then at that point I think I cared about like 3x3 OH like all at the same level. But after that point, the blind started going up and everything else started going down. To the point, I don't know, at some point it really peaked. Like three blind was maxed out, everything else was zero. But now they're starting to mix together again. Getting into FMC a bit, and I like to lower my rankings for some of some of my other events.
Yeah, yeah. Very fun stuff.
Yeah,
Every event is fun. Sometimes more fun than blind, for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. I agree.
So during that time, did you have like any sort of online presence? Like, were you talking to any other cubers online, or do you have any unlisted YouTube videos or anything gone?
I really regret this, but I deleted a bunch of videos. Maybe not many like walkthrough videos, but some solves back in the day. And I'm like, I was watching it and I'm like, oh, 18 mean, like I don't need this. Like, I deleted it permanently. Which why the hell did I do that? I don't know. Um, I'm an idiot sometimes. It is what it is. Anyway, I was on BSG a lot, and I think I commented a lot in like Stanley Chapel's streams. I
Hmm.
was definitely an annoying kid,
Yep,
which
yep.
I regret in some ways, but
Me
I'm
too.
happy. The people who I annoyed, I've moved on from that, luckily, hopefully.
Hmm.
But I was also in r/blind, the Discord server, which I've left a long time ago, but those were the beginnings. So BSG and r/blind, I've left both of them, so
Yeah,
I'm a bit more individualistic these days.
that was how I first started talking to you was through the r/blind
Yeah.
thing,
Oh yeah.
and then I remember one of the videos you posted. It was like some super advanced walkthrough solves or whatever, like end of 2019, early 2020, something like that.
I think was it like a red thumbnail?
Yeah, yeah, it was red.
Yeah, okay, that was stupid. Like I did a lot of things I never did, but
And then
may have not deleted that one.
I remember that was like the first time I'd heard you spoke, and I thought you were legit like 24 or something. And this is back when I was like 15. I was like, oh,
Okay, that's funny.
whoa.
Oh yeah, wait, I think it's public. Yeah, it's public.
Is it public now? It definitely
Wait.
definitely left your channel at some point.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I pulled a Max Hilliard.
Yeah, I did the same thing. I regret it. Don't delete your old
Wait, no,
don't delete your old
no,
cringe
no.
videos.
Oh, I just sent you that like, scramble for some reason. Was it this one?
Yeah, yeah, that
What's
was this
funny is
one.
now looking into it that when I'm listening to it just now, like I sound so young.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So once you started getting more into blind around like mid 2019, what was your experience like learning three style? How did you go through doing that?
Ooh, I don't remember super well. I think I took a very intuitive approach. I when I learn things, I want to learn them with a very fundamental understanding of whatever it is. And this goes for anything, especially math. When I learn math, I try to really understand what's going on. And sometimes you can't do that. But anyway, I tried to apply that to three styles. So when I saw like when I was using this, it was an old school equivalent of whatever that website is, Blind Base. It was
Yeah.
an equivalent of that. But it was like a spreadsheet. It's super scuffed, and then like you typed it in, and then the case showed up. So I kind of went through making my own sheet, but only putting in the setup moves, which is also something I'm very I think is very a useful tool. Not necessarily to publish as work, but just as a learning tool. Only writing setup moves.
So like you did
So I
make
started
your
doing
own.
that.
You did make your own sheet
Yeah,
then?
yeah, but it was super scuffed. Um, so I started doing that, and then I just went through. Didn't inverses I didn't learn separately. I learned a case as a case.
Yeah.
So the inverse and the case are the same, and I still go by that today.
Yeah.
Um, so I took this super intuitive approach to learning it, which I don't regret at all. And one thing I did when I saw a weird case show up in that blind base thing, the equivalent, I would scrap it and do something a bit more intuitive. So
Mhm.
something like U prime SUR comma R, yeah, that one. I think even that I scrapped because I'm like, oh, I don't understand this insertion, and I rotated, right?
uh,
And
yeah.
so my old solves, if you look at my 21.13, it's terrible. I rotate like 20, like so many times.
Iconic
But
video.
what was important about that was I was getting three solves down. I was learning how the pieces move. I was learning these fundamentals: bounce, pass, dribble, layup. Sorry, that's an American centric thing, but like I was learning the fundamentals.
Yeah.
I was learning how to write, how to read. I was learning my ABCs of three style, and so I wasn't wasting time on things that would be a marginal time save, and that was super important. So then after that, after I had this like base knowledge, then I started going in and perfecting things. So I had this V1 of my sheet. I don't know if you remember it. It was like more color coded and stuff,
Oh God. Was it like
and it was like a
gray?
different font. Yeah, I think it was grayish. So that was like my initial thing, and then I made the sheet that we have today. That was like the V2,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
I'd love to make a V3 someday, but three blind has been getting annoying.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
And plus, it's good to have that like intuitive understanding of it, because like sometimes you won't want to use the same alg that everyone else uses, and like you might just come up with
No,
something better yourself.
yeah. And another thing was I wasn't too preoccupied with which case is the best.
Hmm.
I just went with what felt good, and even to this day, I go with what feels good. I'm not a super numeric person. Like in many other aspects in life, I'm more numeric, but
Hmm.
with this, I really went with just what do I like doing, and I moved my columns based off that, and I've always done that. So that's what I did, and I wasn't too like but like Max uses this, but like Jack uses this other one. I went with what felt good in that weird blind base thing. So I guess if you're starting blind base, could be good if you use a similar procedure.
Hmm. I remember I used exclusively D-Lin sheet because
Oh
like
my god.
back then, 2019, Stanley Chapel, Graham Alden was like, Daniel Lin is like God. He's the most optimal cuber ever. But then all of his algs on a sheet were like random
Oh, it's super old. Yeah, yeah,
RULD, like random stuff.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
U prime RUL2D, I don't know. And then I had terrible finger tricks for all of them. It was so bad. I had no idea what I was doing. But
But
definitely,
that's why, yeah, if you don't understand something or if it doesn't feel good, like don't use it. Like it doesn't have to be more complicated than that.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, you can go through and change it later.
Yeah,
Doesn't matter.
that's always doable.
Yeah, so after learning three style, what do you think got you so good so fast? By the end of 2019 and going into like 2020, you improved so fast to like sub 20. And then I remember May, you posted like 13 on your channel, and that was like
Oh yeah, yeah.
such a big inspiration for me. I remember I got
Really?
my first 17 the same day, I think.
Okay.
And then pretty much just best in the world through 2020 and a lot of 2021. So
No competitions.
what
So
what
sad.
what do you think you did to like get good so fast? Do you think 30 days of three blinds, average of 10 meter threes played into that?
So I recognize my fast improvement. Um, I think 30 days of three blind, it's not this magic formula or anything. The the idea behind everything, all the improvement is consistent practice. And well, I mean consistent, like, every day for a certain amount of time. That's really hard and
Mm-hmm.
not easy for anything, but that is the most important thing. Doing it. Doing solves
Yeah,
doing solves is the most important thing. You could spend all your time
100%.
looking up sheets and everything, but the most important thing was doing solves every day or almost every day. And so 30 Days of Three Blind was a good example of that, where um oh, I forgot the word for this, but when you first start out at something, you make progress very quickly. So 30 Days of Three Blind really takes advantage of that, and it
Mm-hmm.
juices out a lot of beginner gains that you're able to get
Yeah,
um through in three blind, and it gets you into more serious territory even if you're still using M2OP. Because that's like, let's say five line. After you learn three blind, you learn five line. Five line is super annoying at the beginning,
oh
but once you
yeah.
do like 25 solves, ça commence. Oh, sorry, that's French. Okay, it starts like rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Things start going well. So it was similar for three blind. That was so initially it was with practicing consistently, and then after that, I really started to love it, and I grinded that like over
Yeah.
anything else, and I would spend I don't even know how many hours a day, but the time would just fly by, and it was pretty much all I did for a really long time. Um, so I put in a lot of work. I don't know how much, but like I said, like when I get into something, I really, really take it seriously. So,
Yeah.
um,
Loving it is very important.
yeah, I loved it. And I grinded like crazy, like absolutely nuts, crazy grind for all that time, and that maybe is part of my fast improvement. I do improve fast at other things in life, so it could be just a skill I built up. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think another thing with just improving in general is also the untimed solves, and we'll talk about like three-point
Oh
creativity
yeah, I
too.
forgot about that.
But
When I
like,
was first getting into three style, I did a lot of on-time solves just to try to get the comms down and stuff.
yeah, and just like kind of challenging all the decisions you'd normally make in a solve, and like
Mm,
thinking like what's the best way to approach each scramble, you know?
yeah,
Do you think like lifelong piano practice transferred over to cubing? I know you were talking about like improving fast at other skills.
I think I'm a sort of a terrible piano practicer. I'm not. When I was younger, I ran scales all the time and did that type of thing. Nowadays, I'm mostly just into learning things by ear and playing and having fun with it. Maybe having fun was important, but um, I think it's just super important to like always be craving new information. So I did that with piano, and it really helps. And piano, I try to apply all these new concepts to my playing. And same thing with cubing is like if I'm learning something online and I'm watching example solves, if those cases come up in the solve, I'll try to do them.
Hmm.
So I don't know. I think there's some tie-ins with that. There's definitely overlap with anything when you're learning.
Yeah. Do you think like the initial practicing the scales is that important, or like would you just suggest someone to just learn all the stuff they like as soon as possible?
Um, I think the scales is important, but you don't want to sacrifice everything for scales.
Hmm.
And we could do this in a cubing context. It's like actually I don't know if it applies to cubing context, but like anyway, you got to learn the fundamentals, but you also want to be working towards things that bring you enjoyment. If you're just working on fundamentals all the time, you're gonna grow bored and you're gonna quit.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
So maybe it's similar. It's like yeah, you could do M2OP, but if you want to get good, like yeah, you could do M2OP all day, but you have to learn some new things
Hmm.
sometimes. But at the same time, you can't spend all the time learning new things because then you won't enjoy it. Either you won't enjoy it or you won't
You'll
get good because
or you'll
you have
forget
to
it.
have fun applying the things that you're learning. It goes back to that like Noah Arthur's video with the step, the staircase.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The improvement mountain.
Yeah, exactly. So it's this continuous cycle of learn new things, apply new things, learn new things, apply new things. And you don't always apply 100% of the new things, but if you're able to apply a couple new things every time, that's what will bring the improvement.
Hmm. And always
So
always
yeah,
got to put in the solves too.
yeah, the
100%.
solves is the most important thing.
Yeah. If you see someone get away by doing dumb stuff and they're still really fast, it's because they did millions of solves.
Yeah.
We've kind of hinted at it before, but you tend to have the more creative approach for blind. So
Okay.
what do you think like you did to approach figuring out more stuff like the alternate pseudo swaps or the oh god the dynamic parity, the alg trades, you know?
Oh boy. So um so this is a two-part thing. One part is like I don't think everything should like a lot of those things should be credited to me because a lot of those things did come from the whole Jake school.
Yeah,
So
Jake.
maybe a lot some of that was like taking Jake's ideas and either applying them directly. Like I will say alternate pseudo swaps that I learned directly from Jake, and that whole concept. So that shouldn't be a credit to me in any way. I made the video explaining it in a more formal way, but I think Jake had all those ideas
Hmm.
down back in the day. So um, so a lot of this stuff is like okay, it's like things that already existed and just extending them in a natural way. And then the part two of this, I think I would call like just crackhead ideas, where I'm just in a solve and like, oh, what if I did this stupid thing? And then I did it, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And then I would start doing that in other solves. So something like the trading a corner for edge alg, I don't even know when I came up with that, but I think I was like, maybe I did it accidentally once, or I'm like, oh, like what if I just appended this and I did this and it worked out. So sometimes a lot of these things were just crackhead ideas that would evolve over time into things that would be more or less useful. Or just like I'm very into like I don't like super methodical solving. So
Hmm.
sometimes I just be like, oh screw it, let's break a rule, quote unquote rule here. Like, oh, what if I have this okay, I finished my UF cycle, UF buffer is flipped, and there's one UB com. Okay, let's just do the UB com and have a flipped edge somewhere and
Flip
then
edge,
do
yeah.
something like that. So even though this is like sub 16 solving, at least in the good days, I would somehow still in my brain be able to process all of this at a speed in which I could pull out these crackhead ideas. And sometimes it would result in me getting like a 22, but in the long run, obviously it was worth it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. You gotta keep going through the bad solves and mistakes. It'll be worth it
Yeah,
someday.
yeah.
I think I'll probably just leave some links to some of your like technique videos in the description instead of asking you,
Oh,
hey,
sure.
can you explain like dynamic, alternate, powerful?
Oh, yeah. So
Like all
listen up.
this.
It's like when there's this thing and then you do a thing and then it's solved.
Yeah, yeah. So that actually reminds me now. You have the memo documentary. When's the exact
Documentary.
documentary coming out? That's been
Oh,
like
why did you ask that question?
it's like 3 years in the making. We need the exact
Um,
documentary.
what do you think's gonna come first, GTA 6 or the exact
The
documentary?
exact. Oh my
I
god.
have I have quite a few times where I tried to note everything down. I think I've even tried to film the video, but it just never turned out the way I wanted it to turn out. I definitely didn't get through
I
it.
know.
I have it somewhere, but and I think I have a Google Doc, but I'd love to make it at some point. However, this is the thing, I'm not the best exec person. I have tricks here and there, but in terms of just raw turning, I mean,
Dude.
there's not much you could say about that. It's like get fast, and
Yeah.
I'm not very fast at turning most of the time. So there's better people to ask for that, but in terms of tricks, I'll have to read what I got. I'd like to make it eventually. That inspired me. I actually forgot about it, but I'm not good at following through with things. So I'd love to try to make it this summer, but I have other things to
Yeah.
sort out at the moment.
We need it. We need it. Three,
Okay.
so many years in the making. Um, Back to some non-cubing stuff. So, outside of cubing and music, do you have any other hobbies? I know you mentioned one time, like during the summer, like watching TV while running LTCT, or like using CS:GO rooms at Room for Multi. I think is that true?
uh, it's Rainbow Six Siege rooms. Yeah, I haven't
Oh,
gamed in a while.
yeah.
I'm playing a lot of baseball and softball recently. That's cool. I like hockey in the winter. I'm not the greatest athlete, but
Cardinals
that
fan?
type of thing. Huh?
Cardinals fan?
I do like the Cardinals. I don't watch baseball that much, and I like the Blue Jays. Cardinals is just because they had this one good catcher, but I like their jersey too. It's good drip.
Yeah.
What else do I do? I've been trying to get consistent and going to the gym um, over the
Hmm.
past year, varying levels of success. I mean, Keon is weirdly an inspiration in terms of powerlifting because
Yeah.
I don't know, I watched all his videos and it's like, okay, you could treat powerlifting a bit like you could treat cubing, and that was very cool. And the gym has helped me with a lot of mental health stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not always
Okay.
in it to look better, to lift heavier. Sometimes it's just to give me something to do. So I
Yeah.
really like that. Um, I'm sure I could think of a million hobbies if I tried. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard when I'm put on the spot. I like doing origami sometimes.
Origami.
That's
Yeah.
fun. And let me think. Yeah, I don't know. Some oh, I really like math, even as a hobby.
Mm-hmm.
It's super fun. And I go in and out of programming. You know,
Yeah.
I program when I have a purpose, when I have a project, and I guess I will be more in university. But I would consider like computers and stuff as one of my hobbies. You know, I run Linux on my machine, and that's I enjoy all the customization and everything, and just feeling in control of my computer. So that's another one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think a normal day like looks for you outside of school? Is it just, balancing?
Like in the summer.
I guess we could talk like both in the summer and during the school year, like just trying to balance
Okay.
piano and
I mean,
keyboard
it's
mostly.
nothing special, but what I've been trying to do recently in the summer is this would be the ideal day. So I would wake up maybe at 9 or something, um, and then shower, get ready, eat something, and then start cubing a bit. And I don't have a set time on cubing. I'm trying to do everything now. So 4 or 5, three blind, and then I need to get back into multi soon
Mm-hmm.
before North America comes up. But I need to get my air conditioner working again because otherwise I can't do multi when it's like freaking
Mm-hmm.
28 degrees Celsius. That's not easy.
I had like the
So,
the AC unit in the room I have for multi like stop halfway through an attempt,
oh,
and then I just like like
yeah,
10 out of 40 cubes, hour 20 minutes.
exactly. It's not fun. It's just headache inducing. So I'll do cubing until I get frustrated. Um, and then what will I do? Then ideally I would go to the gym. This is like Monday to Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and then come back, and then maybe do some piano, mess around a bit. And then at 5, it's my baseball coaching at work, or my work of baseball coaching 5 to 6. And then after 6, I mean, like today I hung out with friends. Sometimes I have a softball game. Sometimes I just go home and chill. I'm really trying to take it easy this summer because last summer I was traveling all over the place, which I don't regret in any way. But yeah, it's just
Mm-hmm.
my last summer before university starts. And I mean, keep in mind like the system here is different, so I'm not super young.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's summer. I try to keep it simple and not follow too much of a plan, just follow a general outline. And then for school, um, this year is really hard to cube, and I actually didn't cube much, but most days would just be like go to school and then like come back and do some piano, try to relax in it. That's one thing I really have to force myself to do is take like, an hour or two a day just to chill and recover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Otherwise, this has happened a lot this year where I struggled with it. Like I'll admit it, it was this year is kind of tough, but like where days would feel like they're just falling into one another, and I would sometimes have to take like 5 minutes and be like, it's like breathe, man,
Yeah.
and chill out,
100%.
because it felt like I was just going back, like back to back to back back day back to back. It's like wake up, school, come back, walk the dogs, go to bed, and wake up like over and over and over and over and over again. And that was like a big part of this year, and it caused me a lot of stress. But and so it's been a kind of like a battle with that for the past year. But I'm getting control. I don't want to say getting control of my life again, but it's settling in again. And I think going to university also will help just change of pace with that type of thing. So that's why it was really hard to cube this year, just because I don't want to say mental health issues, but similar things to that.
Yeah, and definitely keeping motivation for practice consistently is hard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Are you like in your first year of university right now? Can you explain the Canadian school system for anyone?
Okay, I'll do my best. It's a subset, like this is a province of Canada specifically that does everything differently. So high school ends in grade 11, big shocker. Then we go to a sort of like a college transition school um, for 2 years usually. So 12, I guess you could say 12 and 13 or the equivalent of that.
Hmm.
So that is more concentrated than high school, but less concentrated than university. So you'll like what I did. I'll explain what I did later, but most people what they do, they'll do like, okay, pure and applied sciences, and that will be like, okay, you do your chemistry, you do your biology, you do physics, you do your math. So it's focused in terms of science. Some people do commerce, and then you do like microeconomics, macroeconomics, and that stuff. So you get that focus, but it's not as focused as university, where it's like I'll be studying like statistics and CS, and that's like a specific domain within the sciences. So it's to be this transition thing, and I like it. It gives you an opportunity to try different things. I have a lot of friends that switch programs and eventually found what they wanted to do. And some programs are also technical, with meaning you do the 2 years and then you graduate and you're ready to work. So like something like an electrician or a plumber.
Hmm.
What I did, I had the great idea, and I don't know, I kind of regret this, but it helped in some ways of doing a double degree. So it was a double pre-university. So I did adult in music and in pure and applied science. So that instead is 3 years instead of two, because we have like English and French and all that stuff. Those are shared courses among the two diplomas, so it's only 3 years. Anyway, so I did the 3 years. I just finished my third year. So I've graduated. I've graduated the college equivalent, and now I'm heading off to university. The university for a bachelor's is only 3 years. So to recap all of that, I am in the equivalent. Okay, 11, 12, 13, 14. I finished the equivalent of grade 14. Let's put it that way. And now I'm going into university for a 3 year bachelor's.
Okay, because finish high school grade 11, then you have your 3 year like transfer program.
My personally 3 years. Most people do two,
Yeah,
and then university,
yeah.
then
So
3 year bachelor's.
so then now for university, are you doing like CS or is it like similar?
Yes, statistics and CS.
Okay,
So it's not a double diploma. It's like a joint major. It's hard to explain, but basically, yeah, just a bachelor's in that.
yeah, those are definitely my favorites too. Stats and
Yeah,
CS,
yeah.
like stats.
And what's great is like, yeah, okay. Many people say, okay, you're doing it for the money. That's why you didn't want to become a musician. But I would say I enjoy those subjects more than music, more than anything else. These are my hobbies and my passions, which I'm really happy about that I'm able to study something like that in university. It's
Hmm.
like if you could study cubing in university, right? Like that'd be cool.
Yeah. So talking about CS right now, do you feel like CS is the end goal? I know you just mentioned like do you think you enjoy it more than music? Or do you think like CS pays for musicianship or what's your perspective on
I'd love to work a job that makes a lot of money. I mean,
it?
everybody could say that. Um, so I want to work a job in CS and in statistics. I'd like to do a master's if I can, and maybe a PhD. Um, and we'll see if that's in CS or if it's in statistics or something in math. I don't know, but I'd like to work in that domain. But I'd always like to keep the music as a hobby, and if possible, play professionally. That would be very cool because I'm at the level where I'd be able to go to music university. All of my friends at a similar level got into the university and are going. And in fact, this is a secret plan, but I'm going to try to infiltrate a bit and get to know some people in the music program and start to
Yeah.
play. We'll see if I'm able to practice as much. Maybe, maybe not. Again, I'm able to sort of take advantage of my relatively fast level of improvement compared to other people to
Hmm.
stay at that same level as other people despite not as much effort. So I'm hoping to be able to do that. And maybe I could do some gigs here and there um, for some money, but it's never about the money. It's more about just having fun playing music. So anyway, the end goal would be to work a very cool, maybe data science type job,
Yeah.
um, or something along those lines, while keeping everything else as hobbies. But I want to be able. This is, um, I don't know. It's like super. I don't know, personal, but like my main goal is to be able to live a life where when I go to pay for something, I don't have to look at the price. I could just pay
Oh,
for it and be
oh
like, okay,
God.
you know,
Yeah.
like I want to be able to go to for the sake of generality, McDonald's, order something, and not have to look when I pay. That's my goal in life.
Yeah, as opposed to right now in university looking at the price of everything.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
God.
yeah.
So moving on, we'll talk a bit more about music. Did you ask to play music as a kid, or did like your parents want you to play piano?
Oh no, no, yeah. So there was for some reason a piano in the house, and when I was 5, um, I wanted to play piano for some reason. I don't remember why, but my mom played a bit when she was younger, so she had some books here and there. But I really was the one who got into it, and we got this great teacher, a Russian teacher, and she taught me all the fundamental classical stuff all the way up until I was 16, I think 15 or 16. There was a bit of overlap when I was studying jazz and classical, but that's then eventually went into just jazz, and that's where I am now.
Hmm.
But yeah, so it was my own choice. Actually, I was never forced to do anything. My parents aren't that musical in any way. My mom played obviously when she was a kid, but she didn't like take it super seriously. And my dad, I think, like quit after 2 lessons when he
So
was a kid. So
so you
yeah, I don't
said
know where it comes from. My brother also is a fantastic musician. Um, and he learns in a similar way that I do. So I don't know.
so you said you had a piano in your house when you moved in,
Yeah,
but neither of your parents did music stuff. That's it. I
I
know.
think it was my grandfather's. I don't know. It was upright. We sold the upright and we got the grand. That for the record.
Hmm. Okay. I was like almost gonna ask. I know the Leonard Cohen, Elliott Kobelansky lore. I was like, this is like
Oh,
Leonard Cohen's piano in your house? No.
it was not Leonard Cohen's. We moved into that house when I was 6 or 7, so I think a couple of years after I
Hmm.
started on that.
So, in the past 5 years, what's been like your philosophy toward keeping improvement, or is it just focus on kind of staying fun, or are you like actively trying to improve as a musician?
Musician specifically.
Hmm.
So I think I last 5 years. So going into the double diploma thing, I was definitely considering music professionally. Um, and then that stopped, I think, maybe 1.5 years in when I had a really bad experience at a jam session. And I mean, I've since redeemed myself, quote unquote, redeemed myself, but I just had a bad experience at a jam session where I was just getting destroyed by all these like great people. And I realized at that moment the amount of work and like extremely hard work it would take to get to that level. And I said, do I want to take it this seriously? And I came to the realization I didn't. So that after that day, I knew I didn't want to do this in university because of the amount of stress it would cause.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, this is supposed to be something that's fun and enjoyable. And I don't want to and I realized that having it as something that I had to do for school was ruining the fun. So I knew that, and so I'm good at learning things myself. And even now this summer, like I'm officially done with all this school stuff, and I'm still learning perfectly well. I've learned the tools that I need to teach myself, and not to say I don't need a teacher, but I'm able to learn things myself. So it's I can't say for the past 5 years it's definitely shifted around, but I know from now on it will be fun focused and learning what I want to learn, and giving myself challenges, but not killing myself over tiny things
Hmm.
that make small differences.
Did you say you have like an instructor now, or is it just all on your own?
So I had my great teacher Jeff Johnston up until for the 3 years when I was in college, and I just graduated a couple of weeks ago. I think we had our last lesson like a month ago, but he offered me to just do like one or two more. So I think I'm going to do that next week. But after that point, I think I'm just going to go on my own for a bit and then reassess the situation a bit later.
What do you like? I guess top level lessons look like at that? Because I've not really ever had
Oof.
any sort of music lessons.
I'm nowhere near top level, but
Not, but you know what I mean. Not like sitting a 5 year old
so
in front of a piano. You know.
we'll work on things. I mean, the big part is like transcription of famous jazz solos. So that's like one big thing. It always boils down to three things: technique. So usually I'll do like a classical piece, even as a jazz musician, and then transcription, and sometimes we'll just talk about, well, and then the third thing would be tunes, but sometimes we'll just talk about harmonic movements or different ways to approach things, sometimes more philosophical, sometimes less philosophical, cool tricks. Um, yeah, so it's like, don't get me wrong, I'm always learning something new, but it's
Mhm.
definitely more bigger ideas, sometimes huge ideas, like spanning, like, okay, what is music? And focusing on that type of thing. Sometimes smaller ideas, like, okay, what do you want this tune to look like? Sometimes things like, okay, how do we move from this chord to this chord? But we're never focusing on like super tiny things like how do you like basic music theory things.
It became like
Yeah.
not, oh, play this note. It's like, oh, play this color.
Yeah, well, it's like things like that. But what I really like is he allowed me to take a very self-directed approach to learning. In some ways, I mean, he still gave me so much fantastic advice, but he was never like helicoptering me. It was
Mhm.
I was sort of free to explore in my own way and ask questions, and sometimes things he would teach me wouldn't kick in until a year later. But it was a super just great way to learn. I love that, and I have some friends who told me other stories, not from like from their teachers, different teachers, and how they're like super annoying and they make them do these like tiny detail things. And I'm so lucky that my teacher wasn't like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you think now in your position with music, do you like soloing or arranging music more? Like, do you want it to
I
be?
haven't done much arranging. I like I don't know. I just like playing. I think I prefer at this point playing with a band than playing by myself, but I've been trying to get into solo piano. A big part what I'm trying to do now is just avoid falling into playing the same thing, same ideas over and over again. But I really enjoy soloing and I built up a fairly good repertoire of like I don't want to get too technical, like more like bebop lines and
Mhm.
I'm able to play over a lot of like common chord changes now. So I have what I feel like, which is probably like only 1% of all the good people, but I have this feeling of musical freedom, which I'm super happy about. So I don't know. I like soloing. I like playing with other people.
Yeah, and my question was gonna lead into, do you think in the future you want to do more stuff like the super intricate arrangements of like, I don't know, a big band or something, or do you see yourself
Uh,
sticking more with like quartet kind of style of jazz?
I don't know. I'd like to try other things. I mean, my school. I will admit it that my school sucked in terms of opportunities. We were like not that many musicians, so we couldn't actually not that many is a bit generous. We were like we were uh five people, five jazz people who could like
Oh yeah,
somewhat get through tunes,
I remember
right?
you.
So
I remember you
we
complaining
was
about that.
we were never able to form any type of big band, and in fact, at a certain point, I had to start going to a different school. Not even signed up, but like I made friends. That this is where I met my trio. They go to a different school, and I started hanging out with those guys over there because their program was crazy good. And that's where I got started getting some opportunities, but still no big band stuff. So I'd like to try it at some point if I'm able to,
Hmm.
but I'm not super into arranging yet. Maybe it'll grow on me. I like the spontaneity of playing in a small group, um, and having more freedom. I don't like stuff that's super written down and like you got to play like this note at this time.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
So I'll ask one more music related question.
Okay.
Uh, and it's a big one. So as pretentiously as possible, what do you think was like your most profound music experience from your life?
What the hell? Okay. As pretentiously as possible. What was the most profound? What do you mean by profound?
For me, I was thinking like the first time I heard this live album called Yes Songs, and then I bought it from the
Okay.
store. Had never heard of it before, and then like I just put it on my turntable and then turned the lights off in my bed, and then just like
Oh, I'm
went
not
to
okay.
another dimension.
So I think I'm not good at remembering small moments like this, but there's definitely a couple things I'll go over. So one thing is that I mean I'm into records too. There's a couple albums that are so like incredibly important to me and that I have them on vinyl and I have them up on display in my room. So every
Hmm.
time I walk in, I'm like, wow, this is who I am. So I'll name them like Waltz for Debbie, that Bill
Hmm.
Evans album where it's just incredibly beautiful. And that I haven't listened to it recently actually, just because it brings me back to times of either like incredible like just tranquility or sadness or like stuff like that. Um, but yeah, that's one of my favorites. Night Train, Oscar Peterson. I actually haven't bought this one yet,
Hmm.
but that's the album that really got me into jazz originally. Like that was the first thing that like, okay, this is real jazz. What else? My Funny Valentine, Miles Davis,
Hmm.
live at the Philharmonic. That is just the greatest music ever, and that my teacher actually showed to me also, and my teacher was like very important, obviously in my musical development. So that every time I listen to it, there's one Herbie Hancock solo on All of You, which I think is the second track. Um, that's a crazy good piano solo, and every time I listen to that, it makes me want to go sit down and learn piano
Oh
and
wow.
just start grinding again, even if I hate it. I told you about this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Another one is A Love Supreme. You know, it's kind of cliche, but I realize John Coltrane Quartet is just there's so much energy in it, and every time I listen to it, it's just like I always get goosebumps just because of how much emotion they're putting into the playing. Another one that I don't have, and I think it's only CD. So that's like the jazz specific ones, and then another one I guess jazz specific is something called Transition by John Coltrane. I think it's lesser known, but that's like Love Supreme, but on steroids.
I think you showed me that
So
before.
it's just full on like crazy stuff, and it's definitely not for everybody, and it's a bit snobby. But every okay, so in terms of profound, every time I listen to that, it gives me this immense feeling of like self self confidence and self worth, where it's like I can conquer the world. It's a bit too deep, I don't know, but and I
No,
get
I understand
goosebumps,
what
and
you're
it's like
saying.
it makes me feel so empowered, and so that's very profound every time I listen to it. It's not one moment. So those are like those albums, and then of course Songs in the Key of Life, all the Stevie Wonder stuff. I listened to that a lot, and I remember it was like winter. It was like dark outside at 4 p.m. I'd be listening to that, and it was just that's a very important just whole musical style. But Stevie Wonder is like one of my favorites, and the music is very important to me. So in that way, that's profound. And then so those are like the listening wise. Um, in terms of maybe concerts I've been to, I went to a Ravi Coltrane concert with my
Hmm.
cousin at the Jazz Fest. I'm very lucky to live in Montreal because there's a Jazz Fest every year. So, and I think it's maybe the first or second biggest Jazz Fest in the world. Um, so a couple of years ago, I went to see Ravi Coltrane, and he played a bunch of John Coltrane stuff and Alice Coltrane stuff. And at that point, I didn't really understand the whole free jazz stuff that much,
Hmm.
but I don't know. I listened to that, and it was like another world. Like I was experiencing it, and it was just unbelievable. That was one of them. Uh, Another one was, and I know I'm talking for so long, but another one was I think Jazz Fest again. Shoot, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh no, it wasn't Jazz Fest, but it was at Upstairs Jazz Bar, and it was like this other group, and I went to see with my friends, and the music was incredible. And then most recently, this is one that was just I don't know, I couldn't believe myself, but I saw somebody I'd been looking up to a lot, Benny Benac the third.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He came to Montreal, and so I was able to see him and actually get an album signed by him. And so I have that up and display in my room, and that's always just a reminder that like, like I don't know, it's just like it's always a good idea to practice and just have fun with music. And this guy is so cool because he's young, but he's such a good player, and so it's cool to see that. But anyway, so those are my important musical experiences and landmarks, I would say.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I like phrase the question like that, just because
Okay.
that's what I like about music, and that's the stuff that sticks out to me over time. And I
Yeah.
think over time I've stopped playing less just because I like listening to other people play more
Okay.
than me. So that's just what I tend to remember more.
Okay.
Outside of, do you listen to much other than jazz? I guess like Stevie Wonder technically isn't jazz.
Stevie, there's the funk stuff. I'm really into soul music, like disco/soul from the 80s.
Hmm.
I like Marvin Gaye and that stuff. I don't know. I have a playlist with a bunch of stuff, so I throw that on when I need some change of scene. You know what else I like? I really like Japanese pop and like Japanese some fusion stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very
and
cool.
rock. It's crazy good. And what's nice is I can't understand the lyrics, and I'm not a big lyrics person, so it doesn't even matter. so the voice acts more like an instrument in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I really like that. I like the video game music stuff. Um, what else? But yeah, that whole soul scene from the '80s, I really like that stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
But jazz is number one. I think it'll always be my number one.
Yeah.
But I realize though it's sometimes not for everybody. So I don't push it on to I try not to push it on to people. Like if we're in the car, I'm
Oh
not
my
gonna
God.
start putting on like John
I
Coltrane.
was just
Like
about to
I'll put
say
on
that.
my soul stuff. Yeah, yeah.
I think I've like put on Love Supreme during a road trip with my
Oh
parents before.
really? Like what is this,
I was like, I don't care.
son? Have you been taking drugs?
Oh my God, dude.
Oh, you know what else is good? Like System of a Down, um,
Oh,
that
that.
type of stuff. I also like Creedence Clearwater Revival. I don't know. I'm good with a lot of stuff. I'm not a big fan of like pop music today though. But there's no one Lizzo song I like. Yeah. So yeah.
So, do you think as a whole, do you ever sacrifice like cubing for music, or does it, like they alternate in phases for you? I know I'm definitely like a big phase guy for.
Oh, it's definitely a phase thing.
Hmm.
It's like a 90-degree phase shift. Like it's one or the other most of the time. Now I'm trying to balance both and it's working, but I like focusing all my energy into one thing. So naturally, um, that's just what happens.
Hmm. So we'll direct it back to some cubing for a bit. So the first thing I'll ask is, I know some people want to know, how did you improve so fast in multi? So like you got
Oh, bro.
the first 30 and first 40 pointer in January 15th, 2022. I have the date written down. And then you sub-houred 60 in February 17th, and then got 60 points in April. So, like, can you talk about how often you practiced, mindset on like memos and reviews, and like sentence construction?
Oh my God. Yeah, so multi, that's still a big mystery to me how I improve. Also, I said 90-degree phase shift, it could be 180. Correct me if I'm wrong. So, okay. Um, yeah, multi, I don't know. I was just like, okay, let's get into multi. And I started doing it, and it was frustrating in the beginning because I was getting like 20 out of 40 every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And then something clicked, and then it started getting better. But one thing that I think carried me was I had no cap in terms of trace speed
Yeah.
because I was already memoing like sub seven on three blind. So I see it as a throttle where it was like I was slowly pushing up the throttle throughout my attempts. I mean, I could have just traced like insanely fast on my first attempt, but I would have remembered nothing. So it was about slowly putting up that throttle, and naturally all the cube number sort of increased. So I think just having that ahead of time was a big part of the improvement. Um,
But
I mean, there was a big.
you did have like a lot of failed attempts though, like just complete scraps. So
Oh yeah,
you were
yeah,
up to
yeah.
that. Hmm.
Terrible, terrible. But I think the first attempt I clicked was maybe I think like a 40 something out of 42 on my channel.
Hmm.
That may have been the first attempt I clicked for me, where it's just like things started to get remembered. One thing that was like super important that helped me a lot was the sentence structure, or more importantly, developing methods or systems as to not confuse the order of the pairs in a group of pairs. So, for example, if you have three pairs and you make an image, how do you know if it's like 1, 2, 3, or if it's like 1, 3, 2, or it's 3, 1, 2? Um, Hopefully that makes sense. But
So like
it's like A, B,
ob
C, D. How do you know if it's C, D, A, B or A, B, C, D?
like object, action, object, or person,
Yeah.
action.
So that I remember asking somebody, maybe it was Graham, I don't know, but it's like, okay, yo, how do you do this? And they're just like, oh yeah, I just kind of developed the system like subconsciously, and so that's what I did, and I trusted the answer because I don't think anybody has a system written down. Maybe they do, but for me, it was just about it's like sitting down and thinking, okay, what do I do if it's like object, object? Um, or okay, like a big one will be like person object. So for person object, I will do like the person has the object. But if it's like object person, it'll be like the person is receiving the object. And it's like sort of it's like a temporal thing. It's like they're it's like as time goes on, they're receiving the object instead of like starting out with the object. And I have all these rules. I wish I could write them all down or say them right now, but a lot of them is just subconscious. It's like I don't know. I have it already inside of me. And that's why I understand whoever gave me the answer, I understand their answer. It's like it's not something you sit down and write. It's something you have to develop and just think about. So I don't know, to develop it, I would probably just sit down with one cube and just be like, okay, um, for these three pairs, how do I order it in a way that I would not confuse it with something else? And then you do that, and then eventually you start seeing the patterns. And sometimes you'll mess up, and it is what it is. But um, that is super important because that's so. Well, I have so many things to talk about, but when I was doing multi attempts, I was tracking my errors, and at the beginning, it was like so many errors were the order. So I got to fix the ordering.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that. So in terms of my letter pair system, I just want to go over this quickly. Is like every room I will split up into three pairs of edges, and then the rest of edges, and then all of corners in three separate locations in the room.
Yep.
In physical locations. However, I sort of just conceptualize the rooms, and this is the mystery of the mind. I have no idea how I'm able to remember this, but I never think about anything attaching the pairs to the rooms. So it's hard to explain this psychological stuff and this stuff that's going on in my brain, but I think Graham and maybe Roe will attest to this, where they're not thinking super in depth about what's going on with all these images in the rooms. Others more have this such an emotional attachment to the rooms, and not like, oh, like somebody died in this room, but more just, I don't know, a room will make you feel a certain way when you walk in. If you've been there enough times, or even if you've been there once, you'll have some sort of emotional connection to the room, which will be unique in a way that when you remember that room, the letter pairs will come back to you. That's why I think using something like a school that is not very distinct from room to room. Schools vary from school to school, but let's say my high school sucked because it was kind of like a prison in a way. It was like every single classroom was set up in a very similar fashion. So there was no sentimental difference between one classroom to another, and hence they didn't work very well as Roman rooms. Whereas my house, obviously, each room will be super different. Or my elementary school, luckily, was structured in a way that's very different from room to room, and I still have those emotional attachments. So I think that's what makes Roman rooms work, and not necessarily like, oh, like the knife is like scratching on the pillow. Like, I don't know. I find that stuff a bit goofy. I think it really works when you're in the like up to 10 cube range, but eventually you have to start thinking a bit more, how am I going to expand this? How am I going to scale this up to 50 cubes? Because at 50 cubes, you don't have the time to go and make all these tiny connections with everything. And sometimes you have to trust your brain to just remember. And I feel like Roman rooms is like, let's say you're trying to hit a nail in. You can take an average size hammer and hit the nail in. But what Roman rooms is doing is it's using this incredibly powerful memory technique. It's like a huge hammer, and you just have to tap on the nail just very gently, and the nail will go in, right? So Roman rooms, you don't need to do all this overkill stuff. And that's why at 60 cubes, I think it's still a very small application of Roman rooms for the full potential of Roman rooms. I mean, we look at Graham Sagan's 200 cube attempt, and it's like, okay, if he's able to do that, why should 50 or 60 be hard in any way?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure for the 200, this is my guess, but he probably didn't do any crazy like visualization stuff. He was still probably in the conceptual thing where he's just like attaching the letter pairs to the rooms and just sort of saying the sentences while he's in the room mentally. So all that to say is I think it's a good idea not to overlook Roman rooms, and you want to be using the least possible the least possible sort of mental memory possible. The least possible mental memory to remember the letter pairs. That way, you're able to scale it up to many, many cubes. So anyway, thinking about all these things and trying to apply it, I think was what helped with my improvement. Yeah, and obviously analyzing mistakes and analyzing the attempt afterwards and seeing where I can improve. And structuring review systems, that's another one. Definitely looking at all the best people and okay, how do they structure the review system? I will
Mm-hmm.
admit I completely copied Rose's um, uh, review system. That's another thing I think about. Okay, I want this is like a 6 minute streak of me talking, but uh, so review system. How do you know that a review system will be the best? Like, there's no way to say this is the optimal review system. What if the best review system is to memorize 6 cubes, then memorize 9 cubes, then memorize 7 cubes, and then review the first two, but not the last one? And like, what if it's a super complicated thing that's the best for our brain? Okay, well, there's no way for us to know that. So we just have to latch on to something, and if it works, it works. So that's why I just took Rose's system, and it worked for me. So I'm like, okay, I'll keep going with this. So I appreciate when people try to experiment and stuff, but um,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's just such a complicated question that I feel like as long as you get something that works, it works.
So to kind of build on it more, you're not really thinking as much of the memo being like super visually distinct and detailed in your memo.
No, not at all.
No. And then when you're like thinking about these letter pairs, let me here we'll do an example. I'll
Uh
scramble the
oh.
cube and give you three letter pairs. But like how much are you thinking about like what's going on in between each pair, if that makes sense? So like the
Okay, let's do an example, and I'll veto it if it's something stupid.
all right, so we'll do edges. So like MG, and we'll do
So
it like
three, three.
we'll do like imagine it's like
Okay,
on
let's just yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's on
Sure.
like your bed or something, right?
Okay, I'll do my my room.
MGTAPE.
Okay, so MGTAPE. So MG is my letter pair for somebody called Miguel, which was like this just random dude who worked in my high school that I don't know that well, but for some reason I just think about it and it works.
Mm-hmm.
TA is tape, and PE is like phys ed, like gym. So by itself, those things are seem fairly unrelated, but here what I'm going to point out is tape is a very versatile word because it can be an object, but it could also be a verb.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure some way you could construct it to be an adjective. So a lot of my words are like that and not necessarily chosen in that way. But if you have some creativity to it, you
Yeah.
can pretty much take any word that's not a person and somehow transform it into a verb or an adjective. And that's why I'm not super into PAO and that stuff because or like strict systems because you have to be creative in some way. So anyway, Miguel tape PE. So that would probably just be like Miguel. He would be putting some tape on like a gym uniform.
Okay.
But let's say PE would be a verb, then you could be like it could be like people running. Um, and what I would just when I'm in my memo, I think a big thing that wastes time is when people use like filler words. So it's like, oh, this person is putting tape on. Da, da, da. If you're saying that in your head, it's wasting time. So it's better just to sort of conceptualize that. So that would be it somewhere in my room. I'll just be thinking about the location, and I'd go over that in my head. And another big part of this is when I'm thinking about that, I can. I mean, it doesn't work super well with my letter scheme, but I'm thinking about where the pieces are on the cube. And so that's a big part of remembering is when I get back to that location. First of all, we have the location that's contributing to remembering. You have the letter pairs, but you also have sort of the physical aspects of the cube. So like, oh, is it a good com? Is it a bad com? There's something weird I did. Is there a flip? Is there a twist? And so it's not just the Roman rules that are contributing to remembering this part of the cube. I mean, that's the initial starting point. Is like, okay, this is where I'm at in the room in the memory palace. But these letters are, um, but then it's the letters, and then it's also the cube. So it's not just one or the other of the things. It's sort of interconnectedness. So anyway, that's how I view this. Yeah, I move on to the other three or four edges, and continue on
Definitely,
in a similar way.
I understand that because sometimes I'll pick up a cube and think about the room, and the first thing that will come to my mind is "Are you?" like the piece before the actual
Yeah,
letter pair. That
yeah, exactly. So I encourage
definitely.
people to think about that. Think about some attempts. Like, okay, am I thinking about purely letter pairs, or am I thinking about this? That's why I find four blind so hard. Is because three blind is kind of restricted. because of how little pieces there are, and so you're able to figure out what is possibly happening. The four blind, at a certain point, you might as well be sitting down memorizing letters off of a piece of paper. Like
Yeah.
there's not, so that's why four blind I feel is a lot harder because you have to think about the cubes in that way. So people compare four blind, three blind, multi blind. It's really not the same because of that aspect.
Four blind is such a weird midpoint in between three and five blind.
Yeah.
Three
Well, just
blind,
wings specifically that suck. You
three.
know, centers are you do this like clockwise thing sometimes,
Mhm.
right? Which is fine, and like you could deduce based on that.
Yeah.
Midges is the same as edges, but wings, you're in this weird freaking position where it's just like it's basically a string of letters. I've started to develop the intuition of like, okay, which pieces are being solved, but it's definitely hard.
It's very hard. And like I
Yeah.
know we've talked about you do wing memo as like three groups of four. Um,
Although I've been changing a bit to like four groups of three, or like it's sort of like three
mhm,
plus three and then three plus three again, where the three
mhm.
and the three are somewhat related. I don't know. I'm really trying everything I can.
And I know I'll just completely like blank on one of the like center three or whatever. But then like I'll
Oh
remember the
yeah,
end.
yeah,
Very
yeah.
hard.
It's I'm not the person to ask when it comes to that stuff,
Hmm.
despite my I don't know how I think I'm second in A for the five lines somehow.
Yeah. So we'll finish off with multi before talking more about big blind. So would you agree that like not saying the words in between each letter pairs, this person is doing this thing, blah blah blah, blah is like
Yeah.
not saying it and then putting it in your mind is kind of like what makes it more memorable because like you're making the story up kind of like yourself subconsciously.
Oh yeah, yeah, where you have like a personal connection to it. That being
Hmm.
said, I'd like to mention that this is probably like, you for like under 30 cubes, do whatever the hell you want and make it work. But once we get into higher level optimization, it's the things you got to start thinking about.
Yeah. And then like that kind of leads into my last thing is I know we've talked a lot about making multi as automatic as possible.
Yeah,
So one question I kind of had was like when you said PE earlier, obviously it's good to have like the flexibility with each letter pair like you said with tape, but like with PE,
yeah.
is PE always a uniform? Because I mean that kind of
No,
conflicts
here
with
it could
what
be a uniform. It could be like kids running. It could be like a gym teacher.
mhm.
It's very, yeah, very open. And it's like that for a lot of my letter pairs.
And
Except people. People is always the same. But that's why my sort of subconscious rules are often based around people, because those are the constants in the equation.
mhm. So but then like you don't find yourself deliberating mid memo like what's the best way to think
Oh no
about
no no
this
no.
group. Yeah, yeah.
Whatever comes naturally. And that's another thing, like, with rooms, um as soon as you see a pair, you're starting to build your memo. And with the reviews, you're building on top of it.
Hmm.
When you start changing things and thinking about things, like as soon as you start doing that, it's over. You're not going to remember it, or it's going to explode on the attempt. So you really got to go with the gut instinct and make it super automatic. And the reviews have to build on it. That's why it's like so important just to have that initial pass to be super strong,
Hmm.
or not super strong, but like make up your mind on what you want to do.
Yeah.
Because even if you start changing things on a second review, you're like, oh, I don't like the way I did this. I'm going to break here. Or, oh, I'm going to change this letter pair. You may think that's not affecting much, but it is. I believe very strongly that like each review is super essential, and you have to
Hmm.
keep on sort of um, uh, like increasing the foundation between, or having the first pass as the foundation and keep building on it. But as soon as you start messing around, it's gonna collapse.
Definitely changing the letter pairs after a third review or something is something I've
Yeah,
experienced before.
no,
And it's hard kind of because like you'll memorize it and then you'll come back to it like 2 or 3 minutes later and then always like the first pass like is just complete garbage, right? So then
yeah,
sometimes like you'll forget it and
yeah,
that's when you like have to reassign it. But I'm guessing like
yeah,
that kind of just comes with getting more used to multi and over time.
yeah. I mean, if you make a mistake or something, sometimes it's savable on the
Hmm.
fourth or fifth pass, because you'll remember in your memo when you get to that room, you're like, oh, this is the one I made the mistake on.
Yeah.
and you're able to remember in that way. But yeah, it's not easy.
Hmm. So, similar talk about big blind. Do you
Okay.
have any sort of targeted practice for big blind, or so like when you're talking about the grind for sub three? I remember when you were talking about five blind.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Was that just solely just doing a bunch of solves, or is there
yeah,
any
yeah.
introspection on it?
I mean, I did some work on plus centers. I'll try to get that sheet out soon. I mean, you could link it probably.
Oh yeah.
Um, where I just tried to apply some new ideas to five line centers, and that helped a bit. But no, most of the grind for sub three single was just doing. I mean, I was lucky if I could get in like five solves in a day, and with five line, like that's all you can ask for.
Hmm.
So because also once you do five solves, I'm still at the point where it's fatiguing, and after five line solves, I start to mix up memo and that type of thing. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's all I did. Only did solves, and I still don't think we're at the point where choices of Alex matter for five line.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
And then, do you think whenever you're doing like four blind or five blind session, are you trying to space out each solve in between? Just because I know it can be some memo from the previous solve. Like sometimes I'll just completely forget wings on one four blind solve, and then I'll
yeah, and then
do
you'll
do
remember it on the
do
next
exact on
question.
the next one. Oh my god, the
Yeah,
worst thing ever.
that's why the first couple four line solves are always the best. What I've been doing is like watching some YouTube in between each one, but once that starts happening, I've actually this is like a conclusion I came to yesterday. Once that starts happening, there's no reason to continue practicing because you're just gonna either ingrain
Hmm.
bad habits or you're just wasting your time.
Hmm.
So usually when that happens, it's time to like take a break and either go on to five blind. Because weirdly enough, five blind, even if I've done like a million four blind and I'm frustrated, if I switch to five blind, it's like resets my memory somehow.
Hmm.
So either switch to something else or take a break. But I feel like you could do like an entire day of just like okay three blind, okay I got tired of three blind, okay four blind, okay four blind sucks. Now going on to five blind, okay back to three blind, and then you just keep on doing that cycle over and over again, and maybe it could work. I don't know.
Yeah, I was gonna say like you could probably just like space it out instead of doing 15 four blind solves in a row. Like you do three sets of five across like I don't know 4 hour intervals or
Three
something.
sets of five. Yeah, wait, that's a great idea. I should try that. Maybe I'll run
Yeah.
some of that tomorrow. We'll see.
And one more
Wait, I
big
think
one.
you revolutionized big blind
Oh my
practice
god,
right there.
I should do it myself. God,
That's it. Everybody's getting sub 50. It's
Con-
over.
consistent practice is impossible. No. One last question about big blind, which I just wanted to know. You memorize XCMW plus, right, for five blind,
XCMW plus. Yeah.
but then you said you memorize X centers, then review X centers, then
Oh, that
mem
changed.
then
That's
SCMW.
changed.
Okay,
XCMW plus plus go.
okay, okay.
Yeah, I don't know why I was doing that. I think it was I misread something somebody said once, and for some reason I started doing that, and then I
Okay.
realized, wait, this is stupid, and then
I
changed that like
I tried it
a couple
and I
days
had
ago.
like no idea how you did it, just because this is so much harder to do.
No,
I feel
it's stupid. Please don't do that.
like. Okay, good to know. I feel much better about 5-1 now. So my next few questions are just some basic superlatives. So the first one is, do you have like a favorite competition or competitions?
Um, Western Championship
Oh yes, yeah,
2023.
so much fun.
That was just that I saw the I guess you could just say more generally the U.S. cubing scene, but I guess more specifically, um, the NorCal cubing scene, and I guess some of this is SoCal.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah, because I used to say locale. That's wrong. So yeah, I just saw the California cubing scene, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so much different to what I'm used to, and this is so great, and the energy is great, and everybody's staffing, and it sort of revolutionized my view on cubing, and I'm like, okay, cubing can be social in many ways. So that's my favorite competition, and also because I beat Tommy in three um,
Red, yellow, buff.
and that was, I think, at the time, that was probably the most competitive three blind comp so far.
Mm, yep.
Not relatively speaking, because I remember there was like one in Texas a long time ago that everybody went to. But in terms of like absolute times, that was probably the most because we it was me, you, Stanley,
Tommy,
Tommy,
I
Anto,
guess like
Graham.
Graham. Yeah.
I feel like there's got to be more people, but that was like before Worlds. I feel like that was probably the most competitive three blind competition, and I won. Anyway, and so it was just very memorable, and I had a really good time in Berkeley, and I had a good time in Japan afterwards.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
or Worlds. Worlds sucked, by the way. I'm putting that out there.
yeah.
Personally speaking, not just because of my results. It was fantastic seeing everybody, but I don't know. It was a weird vibe the entire time. My time in Japan was absolutely fantastic. And if anybody's listening from there, I'd like to thank them for hosting and just showing me around because that's something that will stay with me for the rest of my life.
Dude,
But so yeah, Berkeley's number one favorite comp. Or sorry, Westerns in Berkeley.
hmm I'm very envious of Will, who like lives in Japan permanently now
Oh
for
my
like the
God.
best
I
for
don't know if
like
I'd want to
5 years.
live in Japan though, but that's crazy.
That that would seem like an awesome experience. I've never
And
been. I've
number
never
two,
been to Japan.
Northeastern, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. hmm
That was a great comp.
I remember. I think that was no.
Oh, that was the crazy. That okay. That was 1463 part one.
Yeah.
That was the
hmm
insane square one average.
I was gonna
Um,
say I think that was the comp that you finally
that
got
was like a
70 in third place.
really. Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was also my. I think I got 4755. That was my first like actually good multi. That
Oh
wasn't troll.
yeah, yeah.
I got a good four blind. I think. Yeah, I got like a 134 blind. Just everything was clicking. Everything was perfect except five blind because there was like some guy's phone rang. And I mean, if you were there, you would remember, I think. But
Can't
it was a
remember.
fantastic competition, fantastic like great organization, great vibe. That would probably be my number two. Oh, but I forgot NAC 2022. No, NAC 22 is my number two.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Number three is Northeastern.
Just from like
Yeah.
meeting you and Anto in person for the first time.
Oh, it's just everybody
Oh,
meeting Jack,
and
like
and Manuel too, and Jack. Yeah,
Emmanuel. Yeah,
Jake.
yeah.
Good times, good times. So the other superlative is proudest keeping achievement.
World record and FMC 28 million.
Oh my God, dude, you're gonna keep improving though.
I hope
You'll
so.
you'll get like sub 25. Oh my God, NR sub 25. I keep forgetting that that's NR.
Oh, and 60 pointer at home.
Oh yeah, yeah, dude. I've watched that video so many times. I just know that it's Rosalina in the observatory is the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
background music on that one.
What else I'm trying to think? And no, OH will come eventually, but those I think 60 pointer home, world record, three blind, those are the two big ones.
hmm
I think others are yet to come.
And it's kind of funny. I was thinking before doing this that when I wrote that question, oh, it's WR because I don't know, like that's the big thing that would come to mind. But I feel like whenever I think about you and like cubing results in general, the WR is such a small part of what you've done with cubing. I think
Oh,
that's kind of
I
cool to
appreciate
think
it.
about.
But yeah, obviously it's like it's cool because I worked on it for so long and I finally
hmm
got it.
Yeah.
So yeah, usually I'd be like, oh, I don't care. Like a lot of my like NR means and stuff, I don't care about that much. But that specifically, obviously, the world record means so much to me. So that's why.
Like your first M blind NR where it's 30 out of
Oh
50
my God, it's like,
50.
oh wow, yeah, I care about that so much. What else I try to think? Like my was like four second places at North American. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, most amount of
Least proud
podiums.
cubing achievement, 14.63 twice. When world record is 1461. Yeah,
You got the
that's
most
it.
amount of podiums at NAC 22,
Tied with Matty
tied with
Hiroto and
Maddie.
Alba.
Yeah.
See if I
So,
can do that again. Uh-oh.
will that be happening at NAC this year?
I gotta get my stuff together, but hopefully, I think I have good chances in four and five blind.
hmm
Multi, I gotta get together. There's some good multi blinders. And three blind, I don't think I'm even gonna podium, but
That's very real.
Charlie is going. But I think I could get on like North American podium maybe. I don't care that much. I've done what I want to do in three blind. I'll say it. I'd like to maybe get sub 15 mean, but other
Hmm.
than that, I'm happy with my achievements.
Three
I mean,
blind.
I'd like to do other stuff, but cubing is not, I hate to say it, it's not my number one priority in life at the moment.
Hmm. Yeah, and man, like I've just learned that you can't invest so much into doing well in three blind. Not just like in comp in general, but like at championships, it's
Oh my
so
God.
bad because
Yeah,
you know on like maybe 50% of scramble sets, you'll there'll be one scramble where it's
it
definitively the
screws you over.
best,
Oh,
definitively
I
the
see
best.
what you mean. Yeah,
So like it's not really best of three; it's best of one.
exactly. But there's no
Anything,
solution. There's no solution. You can't do a
yeah.
best of two, average of five, whatever the hell. Like, nothing works. Nothing works. And that's why I am competing in three blind is always so annoying.
Hmm.
I'm more, I mean, this is important to know, but I think as much as official results, I care so much about like at home AO12 three blind,
Yeah.
just because it's so much a better measure of skill. Because consistency and like um being accurate and all this stuff. Well, I love and nerd management. I love at home three line AO12. Like that's my probably favorite three line metric. To be honest, should I do that in comp? Of course not, because nobody would get it. But as in terms of something to work towards, yeah, and that's why also I don't base a lot of my I don't want to say self worth, but I don't maybe competing is like less than 40% of cubing to me,
Hmm.
just because first of all I grew up not going to competitions, and so I got used to caring about at home results a lot. Um, and yeah, so I don't know. Three blind, of course, sucks for competing.
Yeah, I know I took my break or leave from three blind after NAC just because it was thinking about how going from one RE com to like one LE com and like the cube blocks up and then bam you don't podium now.
It's kind of
You
ridiculous,
can
yeah.
you
So
just can't
that's why I'm
vest
not so fun.
you can't vest a lot of personal
And also, like,
preferences.
yeah, like comp spamming will always be better. And this is for anything, but comp
Hmm.
spamming will always be better.
Just take pride in your own improvement. You know,
Yeah, exactly.
competing's a rigged game. And so, are your thoughts with Worlds?
Move to Poland.
Are your thoughts with oh my god, European scrambles? Are your thoughts with Worlds similar to like what you're describing about with Neck?
Oh, Worlds? I feel like I'm gonna be washed by Worlds, but
1 year from now,
oh, like last year's Worlds? Yeah, I mean it was annoying, but
I was talking about
I like
the
to
upcoming
keep.
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, next year's. Yeah, I'd like to see if I could stay relevant,
Hmm. But like,
but I
are you?
don't like forcing practice, so
Hmm.
maybe we'll see.
Yeah. Are you just kind of waiting for that spurt of motivation, to practice like
Yeah,
big
yeah, yeah,
blind?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
understand that. So
But it's
yeah.
just so annoying to like treat mine. It's like, okay, I did everything perfectly on the solution. The only thing wrong was like my thumb slipped, which cost
Hmm.
me 0.2 seconds. That's what I have to improve.
Or
Wow, that's so exciting. I'm
or
so
like you
so
missed a
excited
U
to
move.
work on that.
Yeah.
Instead of like in FMC, it's like, oh, like I missed this super obvious thing, and I can do
Hmm.
this better, and I can do this better, I can do this better. Or four blind, it's like, okay, there's so much more to be like I could just memo faster. But in three blind, it's like, okay, what is like this tiny marginal improvement thing that I could do to get better? And that is not enjoyable for me.
Yeah, and
That is
like
not.
that's my stance on it right now is just like seeing my main thing is like lockups and then Tommy's just like, "Oh yeah, do that alg drill thing." And I'm like, "I don't want to sit here for like an hour going through every three cell case and then just doing the same
Oh
thing
no,
over and over
exactly,
again."
exactly.
Not fun. It's funny because my next question is what gets you out of like the lows for blind, and I like how just talking about blind got us angry at it.
um, I don't know. Recently, I've been very frustrated where it's like I'll do solves and I'll just keep DNFing or I'll keep doing stupid things. So that question is yet to be answered for me. I'm trying to find solutions.
Hmm. Yeah.
Back in the day, the lows were like, okay, I'd screw up something officially, and then 2 months later, it wouldn't matter because the thing I got officially was like terrible compared to my global, and then it would just continue like that. But
Hmm.
now I don't know. I think this is maybe goes back to not trying to take life too seriously. is like if I got, and I mean, okay, I know I'd say like, okay, practice seriously, but don't take competing and that stuff seriously in like
Oh God.
things that you can't control or things that have happened,
Please
right?
don't.
So
From
don't like
experience, please
rage about
don't.
it.
Yeah.
So when I got like 1463 twice and world record was 1461,
1461.
and I also like missed NAC first place by 0.07, right? These things are like really annoying, but I think you should like in some ways just try to have some humor to it and
Hmm.
be like, okay, like that's it's just funny. It's funny how that was so unlucky, or how such like a marginal thing would have drastically changed everything. But what isn't what's in the past is in the past, and you can't change that. So I don't know. There's only like you could only look into the future and try new things. And for the people who did beat me or who did lucky, like I'm very happy for them, right?
Hmm.
And I don't think it's like a good idea to start um,
Society meme.
raging and like getting angry about the past, and definitely celebrate the good parts as well. Um,
That'll keep you happy.
Celebrate the small wins. Celebrate if you do blind mainly and you get like a 4x4 PR, just be like, okay, that was cool, and you worked hard on that. Or like my FMC
Hmm.
where I was practicing for the past couple of weeks and I got 20 and it's like, okay, that's super cool. You got to look for good parts in many ways. So I don't know. That doesn't really answer the bounce back from three blind question, but in general, that's what I try to look for.
Yeah, and I
Or
think
take a break. Taking a break is fine also.
and I think like with blind being so notorious with quitting at the top spot, I think of like people going through exactly what we're talking about now. Jeff didn't podium at Worlds, didn't podium at Nationals. Max Hilliard
Yeah,
didn't make Worlds finals. Jake
but
Klassen
cubing
bombs
cubing
every
is not
con.
worlds. Cubing
Yeah.
is not knack. Cubing is not this and that.
Hmm.
You know, for me, it's like it's the at-home stuff, and worlds is a bonus. Maybe
Yeah.
this is some high level of coping, but um, I think I try to think of it that way. I mean, I was angry after worlds, like after the round after the round ended, I was kind of sad. I was like annoyed, and but Anto came and talked to me, and I don't remember exactly what he said, but he said something that was very moving, right?
Hmm.
And I was so happy to hear that from him, and it really just it got me back up. And from that point on, I was ready to go again.
Definitely put people first in cubing because
Yeah, yeah,
that'll
yeah.
you only
Because
get
your friends will always be there.
you only get the round once.
Yeah.
So this is oh god, dude, I put the most like rage bait questions in a row.
Oh no.
um, I think it's like as we go in, nearing the end, apply everything to life questions.
Okay.
So this is what I wrote verbatim. Swallowing our pride. What do you think we can learn from Tommy's solving?
Tommy solving.
Hmm.
Like how to turn properly. um, uh, I mean, I think what's interesting to look into in Tommy solves and super like analytical is how Tommy balances trying to be smart with trying to just turn well.
Hmm.
And so what sacrifices he made, what things he does better than others. Um, I think Tommy always in my mind has been more about applying concepts that we know well and applying them very well rather than trying
Hmm.
out new things. I know Tommy does do some crazy stuff sometimes, but
Yeah.
if you look at all his good solves, it's theory that's like very grounded and he's just applying it at such a high level. So looking at what he does in terms of that, um, I don't know, just how he approaches practicing and stuff is also cool.
He's
I
definitely more consistent, I think, with
Yeah,
practicing.
yeah, exactly.
I definitely can go many weeks or even months without doing a 3-point solve. I don't know, Tommy's not the same way.
Exactly. So I think he has a very good approach to cubing, practicing cubing, and he takes it seriously, which is a very cool thing,
Hmm.
which I'm not able to do
Yeah, yeah.
because I think for me at least cubing is a smaller part of my life than it is for Tommy. I don't want to
Hmm.
say that for sure, but yeah, so it's just very cool how he's able to structure his practice and learning logs and everything in a way that allows him to improve and continue breaking records and stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think
And
it's
to be able to do that across all 17 events as well.
Yeah, and I don't think it's
I
like
guess not FMC, but
I don't think it's like offensive to say that or whatever too, considering just like how successful Tommy's been. And I
oh,
mean, he's
exactly,
definitely
exactly.
definitely put in the work to like do the super godly boring alg drills or whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know.
yeah. I will admit that I think he's put in more work than I have.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
and maybe not like in terms of grinding like over a course of time, but he's been building up his cubing since he was quite young, and just all that work, whether it be in another event, just it all works towards
Hmm.
um, shared things across events. So I think that's one thing.
And that's okay,
Yeah,
right? You know, there
yeah.
can only be one, and life is
And
enough.
what can we learn from Charlie solving? Everything. I think it's just kids these days. It's the phenomenon. Okay, first of all, he's incredibly talented, and I will be the first to admit that. And he's incredibly hardworking. But I think it's the phenomenon where, let's say when I started, sub 20 was like, oh my god, you're sub 20, and then I got sub 20 quickly just because everything was already out there.
Hmm.
So, but I still worked very hard. And Charlie, same thing with Charlie. But with Charlie, it's like,
Yeah.
okay, a lot of people are like sub 17 ish, sub 16, and that a lot of that knowledge existed already. So he was able to do the same thing and get into
Hmm.
top solving right away. And I think this is happening with clock. I don't know that much, but like
God.
people are getting like sub four after like 6 months, right? Just because the knowledge already exists. I
Clock
think
is
it's
like
that phenomenon.
the actual society event.
But what's super cool is that that's very exciting because
Hmm.
you see these people swoop in and start to do these and get really good fast, and it's like, okay, where do they go from there? And that will hopefully just continue cycling.
Hmm.
But yeah, that's not to discredit any of Charlie solving or practice or anything. I'm just saying it's I think that's probably part of what happened.
It's all good. It's all good for keeping. So
I
yeah,
did that to Jake, to be honest, right? So
yeah, uh, and that's okay. You know, it's all collective work and
and
improving
that's
is
what happens.
something.
And I'd rather information and resources be out there so that people are able to improve and get better
Hmm.
than try to hide it behind things. And sometimes you could accuse me of hiding things, but most of the time it's because I'm too lazy to write it out and
Hmm.
I'm not good at communicating ideas. So
I'm so glad like
anyway,
we're away from like the 2019 culture of oh I may or may not have a solve faster than that or
yeah,
may
yeah,
or may
yeah,
not have this thing gen or something.
yeah. Well, just
Um,
because like okay, if I can't beat somebody, if I have to withhold information to beat somebody, I don't think I beat them fairly.
it's not a fair
So,
fight. Yeah.
yeah.
So we have one more possible rage bait question left, and then
Okay.
we'll, um, it's so what are your thoughts on blind improvement going forward? Do you think it'll be more like simple optimizations or just locking up less, more direction of like Tommy
Bro, I don't
solving?
know. I'm still waiting. Like, okay, this is what's scary is we keep. I say we. I wouldn't be included in this we, but it seems collectively we keep on. I guess Tommy and Charlie, they keep on doing solves and they keep on getting better.
Hmm.
And so it's like, when is that gonna flatten out? It has to eventually. We're not gonna reach zero.
Yeah.
Um, but that's what's weird. I'm very optimistic that I believe there to exist a method that we haven't thought about yet that is better than just using 3 cycles to solve the cube. In my mind, with the complexity of a cube, this is the same thing in 3 by 3. How do we know? And this is the same thing with the Roman rooms and review systems. How do we know that CFOB, or how do we know that Rue, or how do you know that 3 style and full floating LSO? How do we know that that's the best?
Hmm.
Like, what if there's something that hasn't been invented that hasn't been thought of? So, who knows? Like 7 simul and clock, right? Like nobody thought about that
Yep.
before, and people were grinding or whatever the heck it's called, right? So, um, and then 7 simul came along and people started demolishing things. So, what if that happens for 3-1? What if people are like, oh, like, how do we not think of this? Like, let's stop using cycles. Let's use this like random crazy thing. So maybe I don't know. Also, on the other hand, the cube is a very mathematical object in which like you can look at it under certain mathematical principles. I don't know. I haven't studied this too deeply, but maybe there is on the other hand, you could say, okay, no, there's no way to solve it because of this principle here or because of this restriction on
Mm-hmm.
the cube. So I'm optimistic. I think that at some point we'll find a way to solve three bind that is not just cycles, but we have all the fundamentals down right now with the floating, with the
Mm-hmm.
everything, with the parity hogs, um, twists, flips. Like we have all that down where it's like, okay, we're getting close to maximizing the potential of freestyle in terms of solving optimally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where we go from there. I don't know. Is it block palms? I don't think so. Theory doesn't exist.
And like
But
we've been bonking our heads against
at
the
a
wall
certain
trying to
point,
come up
we're
with
gonna
other
hit a
outs.
theory wall. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna hit a theory wall. I don't think the turning wall has been hit yet. I think that can still go far.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially with like you see like Yihang and those types of like young kids who are doing solo and three by three, maybe something like that will happen in three blind. That
Mm-hmm.
is, there's Charlie, but like other people. Um, so I think we're nearing the theory wall, but we have somehow memo has to get better, turning has to get better. I think most of the improvement probably lies in memo still. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like memo is slow. I feel like we trace much faster and get better, but I don't know. I don't know. I think 13 global is like definitely going to happen very soon.
I mean,
Past that,
Tommy
we
already
will see
has
what
the
needs to be done.
weight of 100 on it.
Yeah, that's true. But weighted is like hard. Yeah, it's weird.
Well, yeah,
But
yeah. You know what I mean.
I see what you mean. It's a measure. It's like measurably attainable.
Yeah. And I
Um,
was thinking
yeah.
about that too with like you said with Yihang, how we thought kind of the direction with 3x3 solving over like 2021 was like Timon doing these crazy
Oh yeah,
all these
yeah,
crazy tricks to push F2L move count down really low and then combining that with ZBL and whatever. And then Yihang comes out and he takes like a very different approach to solving F2L. I don't know if you've seen his
no, no, I have no
reconstructions,
idea.
but he just does it the basics like so much better, and like he's
Mm.
matched Timon's like move count or very close for F2L, but all he's doing is just like forcing three movers as much as possible. And the big thing is like planning and inspection so much more than what's been done before. And I think it's entirely possible,
Yeah,
like with the videos of like Schwani coming out right now, and he's playing like three pairs every solve in 15 seconds, that we could just get someone that does memo in like three, you know, and then people like
yeah,
follow that.
yeah.
So
There's a lot of skill issues at the moment
yeah, we're all just bad.
where, but I don't see a world where my 15 average isn't gonna be like 100th in the world. Like that's probably gonna happen in like I don't know 4 or 5 years. Surely,
Hmm.
that's just how cubing has gone for the past forever. So why would it stop now?
Yeah.
There has to be some sort of continual improvement. And every time we think, okay, this is it, that's not being beaten ever. It gets beaten with every event,
Hmm.
except for the FMC 16. That's never getting beaten.
I
But
mean, that's just math, though. Yeah.
it's just see, no, that's what I mean. It's like that's because of mathematical principles. So maybe three blind has some sort of similar thing. I don't know. Anyway, but that's just math, bro. Literally. But every other thing is like we were keeping like, okay, no, this it's impossible to beat it. Like, come on, 52 four blind, like, come on, or 51.
No,
That's not being beat.
we can beat that.
It's gonna be beaten. You
100%.
see Stanley getting a sub 50 DNF by like three corners or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, Square one, this
And
Square one world record.
Stanley's the only one that does four blind too. You know,
Exactly.
it's not even like level of getting a Yihang. We just need like three
You
more
remember
people.
Square one? The people, Max got like the low five, and then it's like, oh yeah, it's over. Like that's never gonna be mean, and people beat it like 2 years after,
Now we
right?
have
So
OBLP and stuff.
now like everybody, so that's where my mind is at. Like that's where I think it's
Hmm.
gonna go.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hopefully it remains
society.
exciting. You know.
Yeah, I want to be able to look in 50 years and be like, oh my God, this has gone so far. I'm excited for that. Maybe I won't be cubing anymore. I'm for sure I'm going to be buying catch up when I'm 50 something. But um, I'm excited to come back and see like, oh my God, like all of this stuff has changed. And I'm so happy to be one of these people in the past who've contributed something. Um, and be able to talk to all these people in the future. But I mean, that will have to wait. But I want it to keep improving.
Hmm.
But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what walls get hit in cubing and that stuff, because it's still, we are not at a point of equilibrium at all
No, no,
with anything, any except for the 16 FMC single. Other
definitely.
than that,
I hope it comes from Memo. You know, I feel
yeah,
like there has to be something better for that.
yeah,
So outside of blind, I know we've talked about FMC and RUOH, and
yeah.
you're also just outside of top 100 Kinch. You're 101st
Oh my
now, I
God,
think.
it's coming. I think I have to get a better square one scene, the square one average.
Are those the only non-blind events that you think you'll continue involvement in?
I mean, what I always at local comps, I try to do everything. Um, just because it's fun to stay involved and that type of thing. But in terms of practicing properly, I don't know. I just try to find things that are fun. So ROH was a lot of fun. FMC turns out to be a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just about what I find fun for the other events. It's all about putting the pressure off of these things that I'm like top five in the world at, and trying
Yeah,
to find things at comps where I'm like, I'll try to go for small wins. Because if I keep knocking my head against the wall, trying to get like sub 15 three line, and I do that like 10 comps in a row, like no way I'm not going to quit forever.
yeah. That was my mindset going into 2023. Is like I'm just gonna take a year where I don't do like three blind at all, and just
Yeah,
do things outside of that. Just
yeah, yeah,
I don't know, mental health.
yeah, exactly.
I can definitely help you with square one though. Then
Okay,
we could do the FMC training with like every
sure.
event.
But I literally just need a 15 average. Like,
Oh my god, I can see you've already thought about this. Gotta be top 100 Kinch.
I will get top 100 Kinch. That's a warning for everybody close.
Yeah.
I like it's weird because I'm starting to like win events that I'm not usually supposed to be winning. I got my first OH gold recently. Um, like I won my venue for FMC 2024.
Wow.
Like watch out, guys. Come
Yeah, yeah. You can transfer the skills from three blind to other things.
on. There's
Same
some things
mindset.
I suck at. Like I will never get good at look ahead. I will never get good at big cubes. Maybe I could reach a respectable level, but I will never reach a level. I My brain is not built for big cubes. And that's why three blind. My brain is built for blind. That's why
Hmm.
it's worked so well.
And that's
Everything
okay.
else, forget it.
And that's okay. Even like, Stanley and Martin have their weaknesses in events they just
Yeah,
don't do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Also, three by three is impossible. Yeah.
Do you ever plan to go back to using CFOP for three by three? By the way, or is
No.
it? Dude, you were making progress at Westerns with like planning first pair or something like that.
Was I?
Yeah, I remember you doing that. You were like, "Oh my god, getting nines is like easy with my eyes open."
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I don't remember that. I think you're gaslighting me.
hopefully not. Broadly, what do you want to see more of from cubing, not including yourself? So like more championships, or you want to see like more money in cubing, or any videos kind
Um,
of like this, I guess.
the true answer is I don't care. um, let's see. Like, I'm happy with where championships are. I think I'm not a super like comp intensive person
Hmm.
compared to other people. I'm happy with my one comp every 1 or 2 months. That I'm fine with. Big comps, I'm happy with the once a year. I'd maybe like to be able, I'm pretty good at certain things, but I still have to take a lot of money out of my own pocket to go places, and that's nature of cubing. So like, let's say I was at this level in some other thing that was taken more seriously worldwide, like I would not be paying for my plane ride to Korea, for
Hmm.
example. And yeah, I have some help from Tianjin sometimes, but I would love to be able to go and visit places and stuff, um, without having to pay for it myself. So that would be cool money in queuing. And what else? I don't know. I'd like to see it somehow be able to gain more respect as like I guess quote unquote sport, but I don't know how that the best way to do that is because I don't know how spectator friendly it could be for people who don't understand what's going on.
Hmm.
Maybe it's about getting more people to understand what's going on, but
Maybe just like more of
even for
like a
me, that somebody who understands what's going on, it's hard to entertain me as a viewer.
yeah.
Like I really enjoyed watching Nationals, and I think similar attempts to. I mean, you were
Hmm.
there, so I guess you didn't watch the stream much, but
No, I
the
didn't.
stream was really well done, except for the fact that there was only two cameras. But I think
Hmm.
we could take that as a starting point and move from there and begin trying to, you know, make it more viewer friendly and maybe try to get some attention from other like sports networks or something and try to turn it into something. It's not easy at all because it's very like nerd and that type of thing, but
Yeah.
we could try to attempt to do that.
Hmm. So like you think more of going like a chess direction where it's
Yeah,
very online and competitive still, but like obviously still pretty popular outside of
yeah, or like esports. You know, esports, if you think about it, it's like super niche. Like,
that. Hmm.
why the hell would like I watch somebody play League of Legends? If you haven't heard about like the Pro League and all this stuff and the LCS, like you'd be like, why would I watch somebody play a video game? When you understand the competitive nature and you understand what all the different things happening in the game mean and the skill level and the strategy,
Hmm.
then it starts to become interesting. And that's why this is like a like probably multi like billion-dollar industry is this League of Legends like um gaming and esports and all this thing. So I don't know, it's just about trying to market it properly, but that is not my job.
Yeah, yeah. Leave that to Rubik's and
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And I wonder if it'll become more, I guess, like individualistic is the term, like where we have like these
Mm,
big names. Like if you think on like a basketball team or whatever, everyone's talking about like each player getting traded, even if it's like some terrible player that will never make a 3-pointer in their whole career. It's like still like, oh, they just got traded to the Lakers or something. It's like, and there's like these
yeah,
big brands associated with like each name. You know, I think it's
yeah,
I think it'll be interesting. That's like one way you could do it is like give more personalities and like stories to each people.
yeah. I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, how do you sell cubing to normies?
No, most people don't care,
Yeah,
and that's just how it is.
I debatably care sometimes. I don't
I
even
do,
want to watch national streams.
yeah. But it's like okay, there's so many like okay, League of Legends. I gave that example, but there's stupid things that have such big markets, and it's like surely we could do
Hmm.
something to reach that. Maybe it's going for sponsors that aren't necessarily related, um, like I don't know if yeah, like getting like G Fuel or so. I don't even
Prime
know.
Prime Max sponsorship.
But oh yeah, that was funny. But I don't know things like that where it's like you're sort of going on the line of like, oh, is this morally corrupt that we're like taking money from like a company that's like trying? I don't know, things like that where it's a bit confusing, but that would probably benefit the human community more is a good idea. I think.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I'm not a business person. I'm not a qualified lawyer, etc. None of what I say is suggesting anything.
Do you want to see cubing stay how it is right now, or do you want it to be more like a I don't know if you watch like the GAN SSL or something like that.
I don't know. Whatever can. I mean, not at the sacrifice of everything. I really like the structure of WCA, but I think
Hmm.
there's potential to experiment and try other things.
So I'll move away from that because there's not much we can say
Okay.
definitively. Uh, are you someone who you think is particularly like nostalgic of the past of cubing? Someone that says like, "Oh, I miss 2021 or 2022 cubing" or something like that.
I definitely miss certain parts of my cubing journey. Like, okay, first learning three style, like that was so much fun. Um, that type of thing. Yeah, I'm nostalgic about certain eras, but what I realize is there's no way to bring back that feeling. Like, I don't know, you probably played Minecraft as a kid, right? Like,
Mhm.
there's no way to bring back the feeling of like coming home after like grade 6 class and just hopping on with the boys and playing some Minecraft. There's no way to replicate. You could try, but it's not going to work. There's no way to bring that back. So I like to think about good moments like that as like just appreciating them for what they were and not trying to replicate them, and instead looking for trying to create moments like that, but that are different to the original ones. So what good can we take out from the current situation in human? How can we do that? For me, it's like, okay, getting good at other events is actually a lot of fun, and even if I'm not going to become like top 5 in the world, like top 10 in the world, just getting those like initial speed improvements, like that's where I get a lot of joy. And it's about creating those, exactly, like creating those nostalgic moments, creating new ones, and not trying to get tied up in the old one.
Mhm.
That's my view on it.
So, how long do you plan on staying around in cubing? Is competitiveness always top priority, or do you
I
want
don't
to
know.
change?
I don't. I'm not. I don't like seeing my numbers go down. I'll admit it. Like I don't like seeing the world rankings slowly decrease.
Hmm.
I like practicing, but at a certain point, I know I'm just going to become a boomer and everybody's going to overtake me. So that day will come when it'll come. I'll keep trying to practice, but I'm never going to force myself to do it. I'd love to just stay as implicated as I can in the community. Like I'm never going to do a big chop where I just say I'm quitting forever and then delete like everything. Um, Even though there's a historical precedent of people like me who have done that, who do 3 line. But I don't know. Maybe I'll just like fade out eventually. I hate to think about it, but I'd like to just at least stay somewhat connected and go to some comps here and there. But I mean, I see a lot of people who meet that demise, unfortunately,
Hmm.
of like, even if they don't want to, they just sort of fade out of cubing because they have other things to do in life. Like somebody like Jake,
Yeah,
I think that happened to him.
like carry
But
along.
there's also people who are able to continue, like Kit, I think Kit Clement, and
I mean,
some of those older cubers. So
Roe and Graham,
yeah,
they're,
Ro, Graham,
they're
exactly.
old. I don't know.
So I don't know. I'd like to try to keep that, and I'm also very excited to see what the future brings, even if it's not to me directly.
And I mean, hey, multi is the old people event, you know. So
That's true.
I
No,
always have
that's
multi,
why I can always get good at FMC. I can always get good at multi,
dude.
even if my fingers turn terribly. So
I'm like regretting my time spending practicing FMC. I'm like multi now. It's like, well, it's, I should be doing like pure minx or something.
yeah, no, no, no. You're too old for
Pure
pyramid
minx
stuff.
sucks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're too old for clock. Too old for pyramid.
Mhm.
Rip. Your PRs will forever be frozen at what they are.
Please no. I let's not talk about official results. They don't matter. They don't matter.
Somebody.
So wrapping up with last couple of questions here. What do
Okay.
you think the local cubing scene is like for you? Do you come across like aspiring NR holders, or do you know other like blinders or cubers near you? And has it changed much?
So what I'll say is everybody, organizationally wise, is like super, super enthusiastic and caring and awesome, and they do everything they can to organize competitions. That being said, I think I don't know what it is, but there's just not that many people around where I live. It was just like out of sheer population. But I would say that the cubing scene in, I guess there's like 3 main areas in Canada, or 4. There's like Vancouver, like way in the west. There's like sort of central Canada, like Alberta, Edmonton, like that those areas, and then there's like Ontario, so like Toronto, and then there's like Quebec, Montreal. So those are the 4 areas. I think our area is definitely weaker compared to like Vancouver and Toronto, but that's just because of how many people live in the city. So I don't know. That's why like it's not super competitive at competitions, but people who go there still really love it, and the organization is great. I'd love to see more people get into it. I've met a couple aspiring NR holders, and I always love talking to them. Um, and I love sharing everything, every yeah, everything they want to know. But yeah, it's that's why it really changed my view on cubing when I went to Berkeley because of how strong the community was there.
Hmm.
And it's not because of this or that. It's just they're more. It's a like wasn't the WCA created in Berkeley? Like it's just that's it's such an old community and they've been
They
having
have their
competitions
own
forever.
culture.
Of course it's going to be well developed. So
Yeah.
I don't want our community to be like that, but it's about I mean like people like me and people our age to start organizing and developing it in that way. So yeah, it's just I don't know. I got a spawn where I spawned in a place where it was like decent, like not super big Cuban community, but it's like not like the middle of nowhere. So I don't know. I like it.
Hmm.
I like the intimacy of it as well. It's like not too many people.
Yeah, yeah. Seeing the same faces years and years.
And again, also it's not like the Midwest. I think who have like competitions every weekend.
Hmm.
It's more chill, which fits with my style.
Hmm. All right. So next question: if you could start over from 2019, I guess 2019
Oh
is
my
not the
god.
start. Uh, Tangentially cubing related, is there anything you would do different?
I don't think so. I'm happy with where I'm at. I think I wouldn't screw up certain things. Like I would try to get 0.02 faster
Oh my
on
God.
those two
I
solves. I
I
would try
knew
to get 0.07
1463 was
faster.
coming.
I would try to get 0.08 faster at NAC to win. I try to not screw up World's Finals. But like those things are part of who I am now, so I wouldn't I mean I would change that if I could, but I'm not like extremely regretting it or anything because of everything we talked about. So I don't know. I'm happy with my blindfolded solving. I think I really found a good community and a good niche.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I wouldn't change anything.
Yeah, I
Maybe I tried to market myself a bit more, but I don't know.
yeah, I'm I'm happy too. This is good ending.
Yeah.
So last question, I will thank you for doing this. This has been a lot of fun.
Okay.
Um, do you ever plan on playing the saxophone that you bought?
What? What? Oh my God. Okay, I didn't buy it. My cousin lent it to me, and this is the issue, right? My brother has gotten into drumming, so he got drums, but now I want to learn the drums. And my friend who plays drums for me, we said we would exchange drum lessons for piano lessons. So like I'm considering more playing drums now. Sax is hard. I may take it up later in life because of how much I love John Coltrane.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. Probably at some point. Life is long, so I'll have opportunities to do things in the future.
Yeah, we have like
Um,
four times the amount left. Yeah.
yeah, that's scary though. Okay, but at the same time, it's long. It's long.
And plus, all those all
You
those
got to be optimistic.
all those jazz musicians, even with like how technical their playing is, like they're all like good up until like the later ends of their life. Like you think like Joe Pass Virtuoso came out when he was like 45 or something.
Really? Okay.
Or like I
Yeah,
don't
I
know,
know a lot of people started late.
Oscar Peterson doing his stuff like in his 60s or something.
Yeah. Oh, but he had a medical situation, so.
Yeah,
But yeah, see, it's like it's never too late.
yeah.
Except when it is too late when you're like close to dying. Like that's probably not the best time to start
Yeah.
like, grinding for multi NR, but who knows?
Oh my God, one ending. You have time, but not that much time.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
go practice
Yeah.
or don't or don't.
You know, do what you enjoy
Yeah,
and
that's the bottom
put
line.
effort into it. You're going to. Okay, so that's been the end of it. It is now 1 a.m. for me and Elliot. This has been going on for 2.5 hours. This is a lot of fun. I'm gonna try to do more of these in the future with some similarly respectable names, and I think it'll be fun. So let me know reception of this. What I can do better, what I'm bad at, and thank you, Elliot, for talking. We'll do more FMC and Squirrel in the future.
Thank you for having me. Though this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, yeah.